everyone in this meeting. Am I audible? Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes, we can hear you, Liz.
Thank you very much. I have just a little role to play. Also to report that the chairperson is struggling to connect. I've been trying to assist him. So now, in the meantime, can we just elect the acting chairperson? The rules of the National Assembly allows the committee, in the absence of the chairperson, Rule 159, to elect an acting chairperson. Sorry, ma'am. Sorry, I'm on. You can't see me. So I therefore request members to nominate amongst themselves one person to be the acting chairperson for these proceedings. I therefore request for nomination from members.
my hand is up.
Your name. Yes,
My hand is up, Honorable Mvana. Thanks, Secretary. Let's proceed with the meeting.
Yes,
The chairperson will take over when he arrives, or can he manage to log? I nominate the name of Stock, Honorable Stock.
Okay. Honorable Stock has been nominated to be the acting chairperson for this meeting. I therefore request any seconder of this nomination to nominate amongst themselves.
I second
Okay. Member Masango second the nomination.
My hand is up.
Yes.
My hand is up.
Nominations, members? Okay, so which means that there is no any further nomination. I therefore congratulate you, Member Stock, for taking the position of the acting chairperson, and I give you that position. And in terms of the rules, you can facilitate the process of this meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
To the committee secretary, Lindiwe Nzabo, and then also to the honorable members in the portfolio committee. Thank you. I think we can continue with the meeting cooperating. On behalf of the portfolio committee, let me take this opportunity to welcome all of you to the meeting. Welcome the department and its entities, SASSA, NDA, the department under the leadership of Honorable Lindiwe Zulu, as well as the Deputy Minister, Henrietta Bokopane Zulu, and then also the acting DG, Mr. Linton Zulu. Also, all honorable members in the portfolio committee, you are welcome to the meeting.
Okay. So
we are looking forward to fruitful engagements, and then also solutions to some of the challenges that we are facing as government as a whole. Our people need solutions, and then that's why we are here as honorable members to give them those solutions. Honorable members, before we proceed with the meeting, I also need to indicate to the portfolio committee that this will be the first portfolio committee meeting since the departure of one of our dedicated public servants, Ms. Connie Numalo, who was laid to rest over the weekend. May her soul rest in peace. We continue to keep the family and the friends in our prayers as we move forward, as they continue with the mourning when they've lost one of their own. And then we also need to appreciate the fact and the role that she played in the portfolio committee and in government since she joined the Department of Social Development.
Mfuyo maona iri message yo event 17 yaari kuramba kudzokorora uyo pagroup anonzani akona.
We will continue to keep the family members in our prayers. By so saying, honorable members, the meeting is officially declared open, and then we can proceed with the meeting. Let me give over to Lindiwe just to take us through the attendance and then the roll call, and also to just flight the agenda from your side, Lindiwe. Over to you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Acting Chairperson. I would like to confirm the following members in this meeting. We've got two member Stock, we have member Abrahams, we have member Ngwenya, we have member Mutau, we have member Masango, we have member Eris, we have member Mvana, we have member Sukars, we have member Fanamera, we have member Briet, and also all the officials from the portfolio committee and from the department are here. I also want to give an apology from the minister. She is traveling to Cape Town. She will join the meeting a bit late. Chairperson, acting chairperson can also just flight the agenda so that we can proceed to that.
Lindiwe, I
don't-
didn't hear you mention my name.
Oh, sorry, ma'am, I didn't see you on the list. Sorry, and member Manganya is also here. So acting chair, we are cooperating. We can take decisions in this meeting.
Okay. Honorable members, those are the apologies. Can we get a mover and seconder for the apologies? Then we proceed.
Noted, Chair.
Okay, Honorable Manganye moves. Can we get the seconder?
Seconded, Chair Mvana.
Honorable Mvana seconds. Honorable members, let's move now to the next item on the agenda. Lindy, can you please fly the agenda? And then we take the meeting through the agenda.
Can you see the agenda?
Yes, we can see it. We can see it. I can see it from my side. I'm not sure if honorable members also see the agenda.
Do you want me to read the agenda of teacher?
Yeah, let's just read it quickly and then
Okay. Okay. There are 3 items for today's agenda. That we will receive the briefings from NDA, DSD, and SASSA on their action plan responding to the AG audit findings for 2018-2019, and also their action plan to implement the Bill BRR for 2018-2019. The next one, we will have questions and responses. And the next item is the standing item on the update on progress made to respond to COVID-19 pandemic issues. We'll have questions and responses. And then we'll have a report back from the department on the Children's Amendment Bill. Remember last week, you requested the department's legal people and secretariat to meet and provide a way forward around the Children's Amendment Bill. So we'll have clarity seeking questions, and then we'll
Oh, Honorable van der Merwe moves the adoption of the agenda. Any seconder?
Mvana seconds. Thanks, Chair.
Honorable Mvana seconds. Honorable members, we proceed with the meeting. We have dealt with the adoption of the agenda. And then the next item, can you just take it up a little bit, Lindy? I don't see it on my screen.
Okay.
A little bit.
Can you see it now?
Okay, let's leave it. I don't see it on my side. Okay, what's the next item on the agenda? We are supposed to hand over the meeting now to the Honorable Deputy Minister so that she can do some opening remarks and hand over to the department, isn't it? That's what we're supposed to do.
Yes, Chair. The next agenda item is department debriefing by DSD on the progress made on the action plan responding to AG audit findings for 2019. As well, they must present their action plan to respond to BRR of last year's financial year.
Okay. No, thank you very much, Lindy, for that clarity. Honorable members, let's take this opportunity to give now over to, in the absence of the minister, let's give over to the Deputy Minister, Honorable Bukopane Zulu, to do some opening remarks and then give over to the departmental senior officials who will be leading us to the presentations. Thank you. Over to you, Honorable DM.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Good morning, honorable members, Team DSD, SASSA, and NDA. I think we hear Chairperson.
Morning, DM.
Morning. We hear Chairperson to update the portfolio committee on the progress that we have made in addressing the issues raised by the Auditor General, and what we have put in place to ensure that we actually minimize and upgrade our systems as required. We're also here to ensure that we can give a detailed update on the progress that we are making in ensuring that we implement not only the BRR, what the Auditor General, but the improvement of our systems and the better coordination of ourselves as the portfolio. But we also make sure that we are able to be in what we are required to do, but flexible enough to ensure that South Africans receive timeously the services that we need to receive within the restrictions that COVID outlines. So that having been said, Chairperson, we also reported previously when we did the quarter report, we indicated and highlighted to the committee that we have actually increased the number of our internal audit committee precisely to ensure that we are able to cover all of the three entities, the Central Drug Authority, NDA and SASSA, in the implementation of our work, so that they are able to assist us to actually address the challenges that the ADG has raised. So that having said, let me take this opportunity and hand over to the acting DG and the team for them to do the necessary presentation. Thank you very much, Chairperson. Linton.
Thank you very much, Deputy Minister, and good morning to Chairperson and all the members of the committee. If we could perhaps beg your indulgence to present in the following manner. We would do the AG's report from the department side, and then we will do the AG's report from NDA, followed by SASSA, and we will then end with the BRR. That sequence will assist us in the manner in which we want to present the items, and we will share that presentation with you now. We will, if that's okay, Honorable Chairperson, that sequence that we provided. Of course, we are sharing with you this morning, honorable members, progress updates insofar as the action plan is concerned, and for the AG's findings. But we thought if you could go to the next slide, we thought we would give you just an update in terms of 2017-18 and then 2018-19. Of course, in 2017-18, we had a total of 13 findings, 3 of which were unresolved, and we closed 10 of those. And then in 2018-19, we had 24 findings, 9 of which remain unresolved, which we are working on and have made some progress, and CFO will speak to them, and 15 have been resolved. So we've moved quite a great deal in some of the areas, and in some areas we still have some challenges, and we will speak to you insofar as the challenges are concerned, and also indicate to you the measures that we put in place in order to address these. I will ask Mr. Fani now to take us through that element of the 2018-19 in particular, the 9 rather unresolved findings in the main. Mr. Esther Hazen, thank you.
Good morning, DM and honorable members. Thank you, DG, for that introduction. In terms of the 17-18 financial year, as mentioned, that we've made significant progress in terms of the IT. One could see in this specific slide, there's only one that's still in progress. All the others have been completed in terms of security management. We have corrected all our user access control in terms of the different systems. And then in terms of the IT service continuity, there's only one that's still outstanding for 17-18. We started with that process and then we had lockdown, so that specific area have continued in this financial year in terms of that. Next slide. Then for 18-19, in terms of supply chain management, the first one was on 30 days. We have since resolved this matter. We have implemented a proper tracking system to ensure that all our invoices that's been submitted to the department for payment comes into a proper system, that we tracked it and we pay that within 30 days so that we ensure that we comply with those legislation. In terms of internal control, only 2 policies that was approved. We have since put in the measures that we could resolve all the other policies, which will be finalized in the 3rd quarter of this financial year. Then an internal audit is that there was non-compliance to the Act in terms of external verification. This has also been resolved. We have since procured the automated system that we could implement this specific area, that we can also comply to this specific one. Then in terms of finance, in terms of the minor and major assets for the department, there was misstatements and disclosure issues. We have also resolved this matter. We have since cleared all the duplication in the register. We've updated the register. So this matter has also been resolved. Then the matter in terms of, no, just go one back. The matter of the 26 million, this is long outstanding that came from 2008 financial year. It's still in our books. We are trying to resolve this with the National Treasury to give us some guidance. It's only a book entry that we have to correct. The Treasury needs to give us guidance on this one so we can clear our financials. Then in IT systems, as I've mentioned in the beginning, that's only the one matter that's still outstanding in terms of the training, but all the other issues has been resolved. Thank you. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Chair. Can I now ask the CEO of the NDA to speak to the issues of the AG's report? Will then be followed by SASSA, and then I will then speak to some of the areas around the BRR. Thank you very much, CEO.
Thank you, Chairperson. Honorable members, good morning. Our presentation seeks to highlight as a dashboard in terms of how far we have gone with the resolving the matters that pertains to AG findings 18-19, inclusive of other prior years, challenges thereof, and the investigations on irregular expenditure. Safe to say that we've quite covered some stride in terms of from 65 findings that we had to deal with, 40 have been resolved completely, the 7 are in progress of being resolved. At the bigger scope of things, the main findings were around the leases, which were historic as far back as 2013 financial year. However, with the lapse of time in terms of those leases and in terms of the others that are coming to an end, we are managing to regularize in terms of submitting for condemnation. However, I will ask the CFO, Ms. Smithen, to take us through the details per item in terms of the slides. Ms. Smithen, if you can come through, thank you.
Okay, thank you, CEO. Good morning to all. So the main areas of findings with regards to the 18-19 financial year related to, firstly, the annual financial statements and the reporting compliance with GRAP standards. So these findings could only be resolved when we were preparing the financials for the 19-20 financial year, and they were resolved in that when the financials were being drafted, a significant amount of focus was given to the GRAP standards and ensuring compliance thereto. The second area related to asset management. whereby findings were raised with regards to the completeness and existence of the assets in our fixed asset register, and the reconciliation of the asset register to our general ledger. So a significant amount of work was done, especially towards the end of the year in completing our year-end asset verification, where we managed to resolve and iron out a lot of the issues. And additionally, the CEO has approved the appointment of an asset management officer who will now have dedicated responsibility for managing the assets and the quarterly verifications on a full-time basis. And that position has been advertised and is in the process of being recruited. The other main areas I think the CEO touched on, there were issues relating to the extension of leases. And a number of these leases were historically irregularly procured and have resulted in recurring irregular expenditure for us on an ongoing basis annually. So with the reprioritization of our budget to focus on COVID-19 interventions, we have decided, the board has taken a decision to rationalize the operating lease costs. And a number of leases which were nearing termination, we have allowed them, we've exited those leases and we've closed those offices. And so in doing so, we are curtailing our expenditure with regards to operating leases here, and as well as the irregular expenditure that has been incurred historically on these contracts. The other areas of findings related to policy development, our SCM and finance policies, asset management policies, as well as our IT policies. And I'm pleased to report that in the 1920 year, we have managed to revise a significant amount of these policies, particularly the finance and SCM policies and asset management policies. And these are en route to the board for approval. So those findings have been addressed. With regards to our ICT policies, they are at the stage of 40% in terms of revision. And so this process will also continue in the current financial year. The other major areas of findings related to performance management. So what was raised previously was that we had an inadequate system for performance monitoring. And during the 1920 financial year, we invested a significant amount of money in developing a performance management system, which is a CSO database and information management system that would assist us greatly in monitoring, in performance reporting on a quarterly basis, and in terms of verifying the performance information as well that we report on a quarterly basis. And then in terms of our consequence management, in terms of the irregular and fruitless and wasteful expenditure. So in terms of this, in the 1920 year, we undertook a significant amount of work in developing checklists which are aligned with the National Treasury Framework that we issued in 2019. So we went through the whole process of confirmation, identification and confirmation of irregular and fruitless and wasteful expenditure. We've developed our checklists. These have gone to the board for noting, and the CEO has then subsequently referred these checklists to our legal and HR departments. So in terms of the progress on the 96 transactions relating to 9 contracts which were historically irregularly procured, and these are legacy contracts that stem from 5-6 years ago. They have been assessed, and in terms of accountability, a number of the employees who were involved in this irregular expenditure transactions have since left the employ of the NDA, but the NDA has received value for these contracts, and so we are busy preparing the reports to send to National Treasury to condone these transactions. So the assessment on those has completed. For the remaining transactions, they're in the process of determination. There is assessment by legal, and where investigation is warranted, for example, where there's criminal, corrupt, and fraudulent conduct that has been identified. We do participate in the National Treasury transversal contract investigations, and those investigations will then proceed. And then once accountability then has been has been confirmed tonight with individual employees, then the disciplinary action as well will then proceed. So we have done a significant amount of work with regards to that. And then finally, with regards to our partnerships, the NDA Act allows us in terms of the provisions of the Act to source funding from third-party funds and implement according to the third-party contractual conditions. And this has resulted in a significant amount of irregular expenditure as well because of the misalignment of the NDA Act with the PSMA, which requires an open and transparent process for sourcing and implementing partners, but then which is allowed in terms of the NDA Act. So additionally, what we've done here is that we've embarked on a process to amend our Act, and this amendment of the Act is on our APP for the current financial year. So we're in the process of dealing with that. And additionally, consequence management has also been placed on our performance plan as a KPI, and to ensure that it receives the attention it deserves in dealing with the irregular expenditure that arises from previous transactions. So that is where we are in terms of the previous audit findings. And then with regards to the other, so I think I've covered the main areas that we've raised. So thank you, CEO.
Thank you, DG. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, CEO. Perhaps at this point we will then ask SASSA to present their response. Thank you. The CEO may not be in. I know that she has a meeting at the presidency, and she'll indicate when she comes in. But Ntate Chauke is here to lead that part of the presentation. Thank you very much, Ntate Chauke. You will have to unmute Ntate Chauke. You're still muted.
Yes, DG, and thank you very much, DG, and to the Honorable Chairperson and Honorable members. We're just waiting for the presentation to be loaded, but I may start while we getting the presentation loaded. DJ, I don't seem to have the right to load. Is someone going to help me?
Yes, we are loading it now.
Okay.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks. Shangi, is stuck in. Is stuck in. We tell him to speak. Yeah. Hayi lutho kuvela ile ntuza lana kuvela okunye yavela still the screen sharing is paused. Thank you. Sorry about that technical glitch. It's now on, and that Chauke, over to you, sir. You'll have to unmute, and that Chauke. You're still muted.
Yeah, I'm on now. I'm starting with slide number 4. I think the other slides just giving what was the purpose of the presentation. Let's go to slide number 4. Thank you very much. This gives the some relation to the implementation of the audit action plan. Now at 96%. We left with 3 areas that we need to be dealing with, which is work in progress, and I will be able to unpack this. Next slide. On slide number 5, I'm just giving the same summary, just to say that when we close the year at the 31st of March 2020, we had 77% of the issues addressed, which was 94%, and currently we're sitting at 96%. There were 5 areas that we were not done at that particular time. On slide number 6, depict one area which has to do with the SAPO contract. One of the findings was to deal with SASSA did not monitor and enforce the service standards as outlined in the service level agreement. We can confirm to the honorable members that we since did the review of the master services agreement and the service level agreement. We also have implemented a high level oversight led by the DGs, one from our own DG and the other one from the Department of Communication and Digital Technologies. We also have bilateral between us and SAPO on frequently, and the fee structure has been revised effective 1 April 2019. The new fee structure is as outlined, that for the NPS, we're paying R6.65, and for over-the-counter 68 Rand, and for cash payment, traditional cash pay points, we're paying 176. So the engagement between us and SAPO has since improved. On slide number 7, it is continually an issue around the SAPO contract. And in this area, in slide number 7, yes, thank you, was the issues of the supporting documents that relate to the payment of invoices. And since then, we have already agreed with the reconciliation framework between us and SAPO with regard to this, and the attachments in the supporting documents are now provided by SAPO. We have already agreed with SAPO that we will not be able to pay them if ever this is not adhered to. On slide number 8, which was is the continuation of this, we do have a detailed report that indicate which amount of money has not been withdrawn for a period exceeding 3 months. We have in February 2020 approximately 6,000 grants were lapsed as a result of this. But due to COVID, we could not continue to lapse grants based on the directions that were issued by the minister on the 30th of March 2020, to allow all beneficiaries an opportunity that those that will not be able to access their money timeously, we should not prejudice them. We should afford them a reasonable opportunity for them to get their benefits. On slide number 9, Honorable Chair, we have already spoken about the issues of reconciliation, that we also further developed the standard operating procedure that clarified the processes in terms of validation of the invoices. With regard to SAPO, Honorable Chair, we have managed to sort out the issues that the AG was worried about. On the next one, on slide number 10, I'm already in slide number 10. Slide number 10, we had an issue relating to the auditing of the predetermined objectives, which is the performance information. In this instance, we got a beneficiary who applies for social relief of distress, and the payment option was in cash. However, the cash was not subsequently paid immediately to the beneficiary. And this became an auditing issue in terms of reporting. What we have done now, we have said that the SRD cash is no longer paid by SAPO, and therefore, with the coming of the COVID issue, we are now dispersing SRD, helping them in terms of the undue hardship with the 350. But those that requires SRD, there's been actually done in other regions by the vouchers, where people can get vouchers to get the food, or they got the food parcel. So the issue of the cash and the reporting has been sorted out in this regard. On slide number 11, honorable members, reflect one area where we said we'll be able to deal with grant files, beneficiary files that are without documentation. I can confirm that this is work in progress, is the area that we have not managed to finalize. The plan was we needed to do what we call grant file quality assurance. So by checking which documents are not in the file. Second to this, we're supposed to implement the backscanning, which means that the documents that exist in the physical state, we can at least convert them to electronic by scanning them. The third element of this relates to say that if there is a document that is missing, then we need to find the beneficiary and be able to obtain whatever information that may be outstanding. We have since done 8 million of these, which has to do the back scanning. However, the issues of quality assurance, that audit process is still being finalized. Even the finding of any outstanding document, it is a process that we have to undertake. But with COVID coming in, it delayed the project and the implementation. As a result of it, we could not conclude this. We know that within SASSA, we have approximately about 14 million of these records that we need to deal with. So it is quite a big project that we deal with it. But to prevent this, we have already started conceptualizing and finalizing the online application. Going forward, some of the grant types will have to be accessed online, and beneficiaries and those prospective applicants can do it online. Then we will not have an issue of the documentation because we'll be able to have an online filing system or a registry in that regard. There's slide number 12, Honorable Chair, indicate that we had an issue around the dealing with risk management within the organization. And the issues was that the risk register within SASSA was not updated accordingly. I can confirm that the 1920 risk register has been updated and approved accordingly by both ESCO and the CEO. And the progress on the strategic register is being monitored on monthly basis. And therefore, the one for 2021, we had to make a review of it based on the retabling of the APP. So that work is what we're finalizing now. On slide number 13, relates to what the AG has found that SASSA did not comply with the Treasury regulations in compliance with the Institute of Internal Auditors, which requires that every 5 years we must get our internal audit function reviewed by an external assessment as an assessor. We can confirm that we are on course finalizing this, and we should be able to finalize during the 2021. And the CEO has already approved that we require an appointment of a service provider. So the procurement of the service provider is likely to be concluded just before the end of December, and therefore the quality assurance should be able to be concluded this year. So this will not form part of the audit going forward. On slide number 14, it is work in progress. This is an issue of the turnaround time to finalize cases. Cases of irregular expenditure and cases of fruitless and wasteful expenditure. Honorable Chair, honorable members will note that irregular expenditure is an expenditure that has been incurred in contravention of the laws, but the goods and services could have been received, and in other instances, even value for money has been received, but the process of procurement was not followed to the T. So in finalizing the long outstanding cases, 289 cases were finalized, valued at 147 million, and we have sent them to National Treasury. And consequence management has been done to those as outlined in the slide. Furthermore, we have done additional 25 cases amounting to 23 million, where consequence management has been finalized, but these we have not necessarily sent to National Treasury. We are processing this to submit to National Treasury, where the condonation is requested. Maybe while I'm at this, let me just indicate irregular expenditure case can only be resolved when the following is achieved, one of the following. One, you can come at the end of a case and you say, I need to request a condonation based on the facts relating to that case. Secondly, you can finalize a case by recovery where there are no basis why you should be able to condone such an expenditure. The third element could be when Treasury does not condone irregular expenditure, then the CEO, in terms of the regular expenditure framework or the accounting authority, can remove it from the register. So when we said irregular expenditure has been dealt with, it should have ended in those three main levels. But we do have a challenge in turnaround times from National Treasury, because some of the cases that we reported previously, since we submitted around December, we haven't got feedback from Treasury even to date, despite the fact that we keep on writing letters, emails, calls. We cannot get the feedback to say whether they are condoning or they are not condoning. And that's one of the challenges that we are faced with. Slide number 15, Honorable Chair, just depict just the numbers of where we are. Slide number 15, just depict the numbers that where we are. And slide number 17, we're giving the committee a summary of the big cases that the committee has always been worried about, that SASSA has a huge irregular expenditure. So the 1.5 billion, starting from there. So the 1.5 billion rand, we're trying to break it down for the committee to see where we are in each of those material cases. Of the 1.5 billion irregular expenditure, which is made largely by 9 cases. And there are 2 cases that have been finalized, which is the case relating to Trifecta, which is the leases of 358 million. It has been condoned by Treasury. The 316 million is being recovered from CPS, inclusive of interest. This, we're pursuing about 600 million with regard to this transaction. Although we do know that Net1 has already applied for business rescue for CPS, which is being dealt with through the courts. Of the 9 cases, there are 7 cases that are remaining worth 868 million. And the first one is the one that relates to SABNT. I think the progress is already indicated that all these other cases we have got assistance of the legal state attorney. So the state attorney is assisting us in handling these cases, just to give legal opinion where there are necessity for disciplinary processes. They are appointing the initiator and also the presiding officer, so that these cases can be finalized, that honorable members can get the feedback of the outcome of the 7 cases. I will not dwell with one-on-one with all those cases, but I think the progress of where we are each case is reflected accordingly from that slide to slide 24. No. Yeah, slide 27. So each of those cases are up to slide number 27, Honorable Chair. That's where the progress of each of those cases are. If there's a need for any additional information, we will be able to provide. I'm on slide number 28. So the slide 28 depicts the challenges about these cases. That part of it, the COVID-19 has brought in challenges on why we delayed in finalizing some of the cases, because there are unavailability of key staff, some of the people on quarantine, some people have since on isolation, the availability of the chairperson and the initiators and some of the key witnesses, and also the employee representation. But also within the legal framework, we're also being challenged because of the delay that we have, that some of the officials have applied and say that the time taken is long, so therefore they're asking that the employer will be deemed to have waived its right to take and institute that disciplinary action against them. But we're dealing with each case on its own merit, based on the presiding officer and the sanction or the ruling of the presiding officer to take the matters forward. So there are about 5 cases that deals with the fruitless and wasteful expenditure, and they start from slide number 30. From slide number 30, you will find the summary that we closed the year 2020 with 86 million of fruitless and wasteful expenditure. And of this 86 million, 85 million is made of material amounts, 5 material amounts. And the rest of the other cases amount to 527,000 within the organization. We also indicate the status of each of those 5 main cases or main transactions. With the first one, which is the 74 million, which we're recovering from CPS, and this is a court process. And we also have the 3.4 million that relates to the VIP, and currently we're engaging, and this has been done, and it's through the courts that we're engaging on this matter. The issue of relating to 1.4 million on slide number 32. On slide number 32, the investigation has not been concluded because we lack some of the information. So I think in summary, Honorable Chair, is that we have made all the attempts just to make sure that we deal with the AG and engaging with them in every platform. Thank you very much, DG.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chauke, for that. Chair, if I could quickly just highlight the BRR issues by way of update. We've shared the presentation, and maybe just to indicate that I will just stick to some of the work that we've done, perhaps, as opposed to going through everything.
Yeah,
yes, sir.
Before you continue with the BRR report, can I just make an appeal to honorable members on the gadget, maybe just to raise their hands, and then we note them, and then immediately after your presentation, then we can deal with the questions and responses. Honorable members, please raise your hands, and then so that we can note you. Over to you, DG. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. If we could go to the first slide, number 3. One of the recommendations that the committee made to the minister insofar as the BRR is concerned was around ensuring that we report to the committee on our mandates and a role in fighting gender-based violence. And I think we've gone into great strides we've made great strides rather in addressing these challenges. Let me speak to 5 areas, one of which is legislation. What we've done there, of course, is that we've recently presented the Victim Support Services Bill, which of course is a bill that tries to put the victims at the center of the criminal justice system, but also to support and strengthen our facilities and to promote the safety and protection of the victims of South Africa. We know that in the criminal justice system, a lot of attention is still paid to the perpetrators as opposed to the victims. So the bill is trying to address this. And we've put it out now for public comment. The minister has. and that closes on the 15th of September, and we've encouraged members of the public to further make input into that bill. But the other important thing that this bill is going to address is going to enable us to be able to establish our own shelters and Kuselela centers, which are basically government run over and above those that are currently in existing. I think the other important thing is that it addresses the gaps in existing legislation, victim support legislation, such as the Domestic Violence Act, and of course we've made input into that process because currently it was silent on the work of the DSD. But I think the other important thing is that is to highlight that through the NSP we are trying to consolidate our work, and we play a pivotal role in the NSP, particularly insofar as Pillar 4 is concerned. And we also should note that the minister is part of the IMC, which deals with issues of gender-based violence and femicide. I think the other important thing to note here is that we continue to make inputs into other departments' policies and acts around gender-based violence, which is an important element. Then, insofar as increasing capacity in response to gender-based violence, we've of course employed a number of social workers. We've appointed just over 200 now, and working with different institutions and partners, including NETLAC, the WH-CETA, and the Solidarity Fund. And we're working, of course, as I indicated previously, in trying to get additional social work provincial departments, including through here in the national department. We've also extended services in terms of our gender-based social workers that are now there as well. I think we've also hosted a number of engagements in this regard. We had 3 webinars during Women's Month, which again highlighted the work that we're doing around social development, the work that the department is doing around gender-based violence. I think lastly, it's just to perhaps indicate that we're also engaged, and I will say this because it's still a process that is unfolding. I've said it before, and I think it's important that I say it again. The funding to employ additional social workers is very limited. So we have approached Treasury, and we're waiting for guidance, and that process is unfolding through the unavoidable and unforeseeable processes, and we are processing that. But I must say that other provinces have already started adopting much more social workers, and in the main, the Free State Department has led the charge by employing social workers and extending their contracts much longer. So the other issue is around intensifying gender-based violence campaigns. I think we continue with that, particularly in our institutions, but also we are trying to see how best, now that we're still in lockdown, to introduce some of these programs into schools, although it's not going to be that easy, and universities as well, but we still do that. I think the important part is the behavioral change work, which is one of the biggest challenges. And we're doing a number of programs. The Deputy Minister in particular is leading work around men and boys championing change. The Minister, of course, together with Minister of Health, recently launched the Ministerial Advisory Committee on behavioral change. And I can tell you that the work that is unfolding in that committee is really beginning to gain momentum, with a number of members who are part of that committee beginning to expand a number of key messages and programs on the ground. The Minister, in fact, together, the 2 ministers will be very soon talking to the public around some of the work that has been done through this council, and we'll be visiting some provinces in this regard. Let's go to the next slide. Additionally, in terms of social behavior, I think what we've done now, there's normally 16 days of activism against women and children. We've gone beyond 16 days. Our programs are looking at 100 days and beyond. We think that that's important so that we can continue spreading the messages around gender-based violence. And I think the other important one is access to psychosocial services. The important thing here is that the number of shelters that we have, we must just indicate that there is a challenge with funding for shelters. We must acknowledge that. But we must indicate that we are supporting the national shelters movement, and they're aware that we're doing that. We have a number of shelters that are run by government. I think it's only 10% out of the 130 that are run by government. The other 90 are run by NGOs. And then we have approached Treasury for support in terms of funding so that we're able to do much more in terms of supporting shelters. And of course, this is a big historical problem in that shelters were not adequately funded prior. And the problem seems to persist, but we are trying to make strides to address that. We're aware that this is a serious challenge. Maybe in terms of improving the access again, I shared at the last meeting to this committee that we have done some work in terms of the gender-based command center, and I made a pledge that we would invite some of the members to come and view the new command center. And we've recently done some work with Solidarity Fund in this regard in terms of moving to a much bigger area. And we continue to do that work and populate, of course, publicly, widely, the numbers and the contact details insofar as the census is concerned. And I must say that we've received just almost 200,000 calls through the gender-based command center in the 2018-19 financial year. And of course, a number of other methods, including USSD and SMSs in this regard. I think the other important thing to highlight here is that we continue to implement our work insofar as Pillar 4 of the NSP is concerned, which deals with response care, support, and healing. And at some point, perhaps we can go into much more detail. We did previously when we presented to this committee around the work we're doing around gender-based violence. And I think, yeah, so the next one is around the Tutuzela centers. You know, the challenge that we have here, Chair, is that the centers are not necessarily run by us as the department. We provide services to the centers. They're run by the NPA and largely the Department of Health. So we have not done the investigations per se, because those investigations are largely done by those institutions who run the centers. But what we have done, Chair, is that we've developed a policy on psychosocial services in order to address the quality of services in these centers. And that's, I think, is an important thing. And I think we'll be finishing that within the current financial year. I think the next issue that you raised, members, was around the 2% threshold, or not threshold rather, but the 2% rate that has been set by government insofar as employing persons with disabilities. Now, I must say here that the lockdown has also affected us greatly insofar as meeting this target, because we're not able to do a number of processes, and there were posts that had been advertised a number of times, sorry, there were posts that were advertised, and because of lockdown, we're not able to close those issues, those elements. But now that the restrictions have been eased, as a department, we still sit at 1.7, but we've advertised about 33 posts in the last month or two or so, and we'll be filling those posts. And what we've done in the adverts is to be specific in terms of ensuring that we want persons with disabilities to be able to apply. So what we'll be doing is that, in fact, I have a sense that we'll far surpass the 2% percentage when we conclude these posts that we have advertised. SASSA and NDA are doing very well in this regard. SASSA is at 2.1% and NDA is at 2% specifically. I won't go to the next, to the slide before that, just to highlighting the numbers, but let's go to the one where you spoke about the fact that we should, in our process of reimagining social transformation, align our targets to the mandate. Let me say, Chair, that this has been brilliant so far. We've done good work in this regard. And I think the important thing is to highlight that as a sector, we now have joint planning sessions with the provinces. We also have common impact statements, which is, of course, improving the quality of lives of our people. This cuts across all provincial departments, including our agencies, but also our vision is a common vision as the DSD sector or portfolio, which is creating a caring and self-reliant society. This is now cutting across, and we're doing this together. Of course, there are some challenges that persist, particularly in areas where there are concurrent functions, but we're addressing those challenges, working with the provinces to ensure that we are all on one page. Let's go to the next one. The last one is dealing with the basically evidence-based approach, and your advice was that we move towards an evidence-based outcomes approach to deliver on our mandate. I can tell you, Chair, that when we present the next quarter, we'll begin to see some of this work. And last week when we presented, of course, the Chair had indicated that an approach that we should consider in terms of trying to highlight impact. It may not necessarily, we may not call it impact right now because that takes a while to measure, but we will call it change. The change that our programs have done to ordinary South Africans, where they shifted from one area to another area against the vision of our department and our impact statements of creating a better life for our citizens. we'll be able to speak to some of these areas, particularly when we report on Q2 and 3, and perhaps 4 as we move along. Of course, you'd recall that when we reported on Q1, we were still reporting on the old APP. We've had to adjust the APP as you're aware in that regard. Let me also say that we've shifted. You'd recall that I presented to this committee some time ago in terms of the impact that we're doing, the analysis that we're doing around the 350 grant that we've provided, but also in terms of the food parcels that we've distributed and the various social protection measures that we've embarked upon. We are in the process of finalizing the appointments of the service providers to do this work, working together with our agencies, but also in terms of the digital monitoring and evaluation. We've now received requests, and we are in the process of finalizing that with the BAC scheduled to sit in the next few days, so that we can appoint service providers, so that when we report on our monitoring and evaluation work, we're giving you real-time information. We're giving you information that is recorded, standardized across the sector, including all the provinces. Maybe just we can go to the expenditure. I'll deal with one thing in the expenditure. I think the CFOs have covered this area quite effectively. But let me just deal with one thing. Let me say that in terms of irregular expenditure, we have written to National Treasury to ask for condonements, and the CFO had previously explained why we're asking for this condonement on 1.8 million rand in terms of COE. And of course, SASSA and NDA have spoken a number of times in terms of the work that they did. But there's an important part that I need to outline. The last time we presented to this committee, the Loss Control Committee had not sat for a very long time. Let me indicate, Chair, that as we stand right now, they have sat at around 3 to 4 times, if I'm not mistaken. And we have now dealt with 55% of the cases. The submission is currently in my office with warning letters that are going out to staff who have transgressed in this area. And this is the consequence management we were taking. But over and above that, we're going to be issuing rather, and the submission is still in my office, recovery letters for the money that staff have costed us as an institution, in some areas negligently, and in some areas, of course, some of the areas were due to some policy related matters. For example, in instances where I can cite this as an example, what we've had to do is also look at our policies in order to find a way, in order to close the gaps that may appear in the policies. And let me give an example. Sometimes you'd go and hire a vehicle, and when you hire the vehicle, you get a form that says, you're indicating that there are no damages on the vehicle, and you've checked the car all around and ensured that there's no damages. Now, if you're not able to produce that form, if the company that you've hired the vehicle from, if you're not able to produce the form and they argue that no, there was a scratch here, if you don't have that form, you lose the case inevitably. There's no trying to address these areas in the policy and saying that staff have an obligation to keep these forms. If they don't keep these forms, they will be held liable because it's a responsibility that ought to be given to staff. So we are dealing with some of the other issues, particularly around. In fact, that's how we're dealing with the issues around fruitless and wasteful expenditure. Maybe, Chair, SASSA and India have indicated, I think, briefly in terms of their work. Let me, I think, your third recommendation around aligning the financial expenditure reports should be aligned with the non-financial performance or the mandates of the department and its entities. Yeah, I think when we report that we together with our agencies, we always ensure that we align the financial statements or the financial expenditure report rather to the programs. And this is an important part, and more we are becoming more conscious of aligning the targets to expenditure. And I've challenged the team that when we report going forward, we should find a way of reporting on the implications, the financial implications of targets not met, and link to that the risks aligned to that. Because if you don't do that, it means we're not necessarily paying attention to the impact, both the financial impact, but also the impact that we would have recorded in terms of affecting people's lives on the ground. And maybe let me leave it there, Chair. And the other elements of the report are there. but I thought let me just highlight those areas in that regard. Thank you very much, Chair. That concludes our presentation in this regard.
Thank you very much, Acting DG and the team for the presentations. We're now going to we've got the following members who wants to pose questions. Number one is Honorable Aris, number two, Honorable Abrams, number three, Honorable Masango, number four, Honorable Manganye, number five, Honorable Ngwenya. Is there any other member whom I've left out who wants to ask a question?
Yes, Chair. I did raise my
Honorable-
hand. I don't know whether you haven't seen it or not.
Oh, I've not seen it. I'm sure it's my network on the other side because it keeps on breaking.
Okay.
But I've noted you as honorable, number 6, Honorable Bilankulu. Is there any
Honorable-
other member
okay.
who wants Honorable
Honorable
Mvana or Honorable Mvana will be number 7? I think that's the list that concludes the
You
list.
mentioned me, Honorable Chair,
Honorable
did you
Manganye,
mention me?
yeah, I did mention you, Honorable Manganye. You will be number 4 in the list. So,
Chairperson, just before you open for questions, please, just one thing.
okay, DM, over to you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. There's just one thing that I need to correct, and I think I'll live a while to correct it. The department is the custodian of the disability policy. I want to correct it before members ask the questions. The Department of Social Development is the custodian of the policy on the rights of persons with disabilities. And that policy amended the targets. So I'm not sure why is it that people are still talking about 2% when disability employment is 7%. That is what Cabinet approved. 7%, Chair, not 2. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Honorable DM, for that input. Honorable members, can we follow in that order? Let's give now to Honorable Eris to pose the question.
Thank you.
Over to
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Morning. Chair, mine is just on that. I want to know that 6,000 lapse grants. What other measures does SASSA have in place to get in touch with these beneficiaries? Is it that these people are in rural areas where they cannot access their pay points, and what other plans did SASSA have in place for these people? Because we will sit with the situation, even though they review or this applications, they will still sit with the situation where people don't have access to this point. And then I want to know in terms of these e-vouchers, I want to know which retail stores these people can use these e-vouchers. Is there specific stores? Can they use it in the local community where they, or is it just these big retails? And because I also want to know how many of these retail stores will be black retail stores. And then in terms of the incomplete supporting documents, I have read there that there's some date stamps that have been changed, because if date stamps on any of these documents has been changed, it means that there's also a financial implication. I also would like to know how far is the process for implementing the online application. The department must give us a time and a date when this will happen. And then in terms of the NDA, the board members that didn't, that not yet give their annual financial declarations, I want to know what's the reasons for the delay that they don't give that. And then in terms of the vacancies in the supply chain management compliance officers, what is the reason that this vacancy will only be filled for in the next 2 months? Then in terms of the consequence management from SASSA, I noted that they have the consequence management was verbal, written warnings, etc. Some will go to training. I would just want to need clarity on this issue. If any of these cases, if there is money involved, Apart from the disciplinary cases, are there also legal proceedings with this disciplinaries? Because it's two processes, the disciplinary process and also that 7B cases, if there's a legal process also underway. Yeah, I think that's it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Abrams, over to you.
Thank you, Acting Chairperson, and thank you for the presentation. I've just got 3 questions to the NDA, and one of it's covered by Member Aries to also find out why the board members have not submitted the annual financial interest declarations. Then the second question, SASSA in their presentation included very nicely the amounts of money that will be recommended for condonement and the amounts that are irregular, etc. So I was hoping and wondering if NDA can maybe resend a presentation which includes the actual amounts in the presentation. For example, the 96 transactions they speak to with regard to the 9 legacy contracts. So just throughout their presentation, if they can maybe just go back and include some amounts, just so that we understand, you know, what we're talking about in the same way SASSA did. And then lastly, we spoke about the progress findings and what we're working on, but maybe I missed it, but did they speak about the 5 findings where there were no progress on, and what were the reasons there were no progress? And then lastly, to the acting DG, it's a very nice to hear, and I'm glad to hear that there are a stack of warning letters on your table that's going to be issued. Thanks, Acting Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Abrams. Over to you, Honorable Masango.
Thank you so much, Chair. And thank you for the presentations by the department and the agencies. My questions deal with the, first of all, the NDA. I would like to know when, especially the CFO was presenting, she was giving the percentages of how much has been achieved in each aspect of the AG's, the issues that the AG raised. I would like to know overall, if one just wants to know overall, how well has the NDA done, and how has that affected delivery and the alleviation of the risks that all those issues were raised for, just so that one has an indication of how the NDA has done in this issue. And then to SASSA, I would like to know how has the uptake of using bank cards for grants, how has that improved, if at all? Because one is looking at that helps the use of expensive pay points, as it were. The last time it was a very impressive figure of, I believe, I don't know, it was between 8 and 12 million people that were using their cards. So I would like to know how that has gone. With regards to the ADG explained this so well last meeting, and he reiterated that this meeting. But I'm just wondering, because the CFO of SASSA also talked about having tried to contact or to get some responses from Treasury. I would like to know if there are sort of DG forums where these things can be escalated for these very important responses to be obtained, so that we can get some progress in these things that we keep. It almost sounds like everything has been given has been submitted to Treasury and nothing is coming back. So I'm just wondering, what are the escalation sort of modalities to deal with these things? And then the other thing, Chair, and one has to mention that the SASSA officials have been so helpful. I mean, beyond helpful, in fact, in terms of dealing with the issues that would that I personally can say I bring to them, where people are having complaints of having written to SASSA, sent SMSs and WhatsApps and whatever other communication channel that has been published and not getting anything. I know that some work is being done at the moment, but I would like to know how much of this information is sent to the offices of SASSA as regulations are being updated, sent to the offices of SASSA, because the elderly and the people with disabilities, my understanding is that they are attended to on Monday and Tuesday, and then it's child support grant on Wednesday and Thursday, and then appointments on Friday or whatever had not been done, had not been finalized. People are just sent back, and they are not given any appointments, and they are sent back for days on end. I just would like to know what is the arrangement between SASSA head office and the offices in the regions to know this information, so that there is no turning back of people that is very, very unnecessary and things like that. But I will end there, Chair. Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you very much, Honorable Masango. Over to you, Honorable Manganya.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I must also thank the presenter to the document that they have just furnished us with. I wanted to check to Master Chauke. He mentioned that they are busy resolving the issue of SAPO and whatever. So I wanted to check that one of the lapsed, the people who were the beneficiaries that they have lapsed. I met some of them when I was at the post office. They were told that they are no longer getting benefit because they have lapsed. So I wanted more clarity on it. What is that the department, as other members have already said, what is the department? Are you going to track them down, or what is going to happen? Or this money is going to go back to the account of SASSA, the one from Postbank? And then the other one, I wanted to know what is the relationship of the internal audit and the management? Because I thought when you have the internal audit, it will give you, or it will highlight the risk before it is allocated like the one that we are having now. Because if an ordinary member in the street get hold of the document or whatever that we're talking about that shows the money, they will say this department is not doing well while it's doing well. Why I want to understand the relationship there of the internal audit. And then to the NDA, sorry, Chair. You know, I'm working from home. To that one of the NDA, I understand 2018-19 investigation, 40 fruitless expenditure, as they have already alluded. She says it's addressed. So my arguments approve is not addressed because others are addressed. Because they are approved. This one is addressed only by in books, or is still going to be approved. The other one I wanted to know, the Criminal Act have you identify at least some who got away with a lump sum of money, because you mentioned that you identify criminals, but you didn't mention is that the internal or external criminals. Many issues, as Linton have mentioned, have been resolved. They are trying to resolve many things. The only challenge that he said is the one that he says 55 staff money supposed to be recovery from them. Exactly when you lose the form or the document, you need to pay as individual because you are the one who don't know that you lost that form because you have damaged the car yourself or whatever. I think the department on that one, they are doing well. And then I'm happy he also mentioned confirm the issue that most of us in the portfolio committee we've been crying of, the one of shelters. Last time when we were with the premiers and whatever in this BVG, I asked the premier of my province, Dop Mokoro, because what he mentioned there is not here, it's not filled on the ground. So I think on Friday we'll deal with that with the premier, because most of the things that most people reported at your department is not there on the ground. Also, you mentioned the one of the social worker. Really, if you that issue, you can make sure that you get money for. I really, we're really going to appreciate because down here, even if you hammer every day on the poor stuff, you can see that the lack of social worker. Some HR, you find one person is doing admin and is doing everything, monitoring 90 staff. I think it's too much. If you can try to assist to relieve them. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Memanganye. Can now give over to Honorable Ngwenya. Over to you, Honorable Member. Honorable Ngwenya. Oh, okay. Honorable Ngwenya. I think she's got some technical glitches. Honorable Ngwenya, can you hear us?
I think she's got some network
I think she's got
challenge. I think we can just proceed to the next person. I'll check with her.
Okay, let's proceed to Honorable Bilankulu, and then we'll take Honorable Ngwenya later on when she's
Thank
Honorable
you.
Bilankulu.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Firstly, I would like to appreciate the department on the briefing that has been given to us now. And good morning, DM and everybody else who is in this platform. My first question, Chairperson, goes to the department. It is going to be almost a year since the letter was written to National Treasury requesting guidance on how to deal with the matter of prepayment and advances that have led to unauthorized expenditure. The operation of the SOCPEN, or does the department have any plan on how they are going to deal with this matter that they would perhaps propose to National Treasury? While still on that matter, what has caused the delay of almost a year from National Treasury side? On SASSA issues, Chairperson, what are some of the persistent challenges which are still experienced with the SAPO contract, and how are they being systematically addressed? What timeframes has been set to address these challenges? On the progress report on audit findings relating to grant beneficiaries file without supporting documentation or incomplete files, will SASSA meet its commitment of introducing the online application process? Are there any challenges that will delay the implementation of this commitment? On the progress on audit findings relating to long outstanding irregular and fruitless cases? What possible solutions are there to address the challenges that have impact on the level of progress on the long outstanding 9 big cases of irregular expenditure? The last question, Chairperson, was supposed to be the one of the NDA, but I had two speakers, honorable members who spoke before me, asking about the financial interest declaration of the board members. Thank you, Chair. Chairperson.
Chairperson.
I think I'll try to just get hold of him as well.
Okay.
Okay.
There is a
Can I
problem.
proceed?
No, you can. I'm done.
Can I
I'm done.
proceed,
Thank you.
honorable members?
No, go on. Vanna, I'm
It
back.
was, uh, who's back now? Secretary, are you able?
Honorable
I
Chairperson, can I continue?
I think it's Memangwenya who was lost to connection challenge. I think she's
Okay,
back now.
I'll be after Honorable Ngwenya, ne? Okay, I'll be after Honorable. Okay.
But now the chairperson is muted.
Ma'am, continue while listening.
Lindy, can I continue?
Yes. Yes, Honorable, we are listening. I'm thinking about time.
Thank you, Honorable Vanna. Honorable Chairperson, thank you for the presentation from the DSD and all the entities. And I would like to firstly welcome the DM's issue on the custodian of the policy of the disabled people, actually people living with disabilities. Although it has risen to 7%, I feel that as the DSD, we should be looking at a time where people living with disabilities cannot be limited as to which percentage they should be employed, especially in government entities. So at the moment, I welcome the 7%. It will work for now. And I would like to know, as the department, how many disabled people do they have in their department, and including their social workers that are disabled, that are living with disabilities? How many have they employed within the department? And I also welcome the decision of increasing the number of the audit team. I would also want to know the actual number. What was the number of the audit team, and how much has it been increased to? The issue, the NDA, on the issue of the recruitment of the asset management officer and the issue of the supply chain management compliance officer, I think those two positions must be filled with immediate effect. And the 2 months that has been put there, although with the asset management officer, you did not even say how long the recruitment will take. But I just feel that 2 months is a long time to appoint a person to fill a position. If those positions can be filled with immediate effect and the process is speed up, we would really appreciate that. I'm really concerned as well with NDA on the matter of the human resources development, where we are still awaiting the board of the approval, because that is also very important within the NDA, that we finally have a policies that will encourage the development of our human resources that is within the entity. With SASSA, the risk committee, the risk management committee, I would like to know who make up that committee and how many are they, and if they have any key performance areas that they will be focusing on as a committee. We go to these issues of the cases that have been outstanding and going for so long. I am concerned, as I have raised this concern a number of times, that the officials, that the 7 officials that I have said to have resigned, I feel that they have gotten away with with MEDA, think that SASSA as an entity must initiate criminal charges for the money that was fraudulently taken from the entity. They must not be let go that they have resigned and that is it. So I encourage once again for SASSA to open criminal charges against these 7 officials. The issue that has been raised again with the cases of the point element that DSD and SASSA have delayed the processes of these cases. Hence, now we might have to waiver the disciplinary actions. It really concerns me because these cases are from a whole lot of time that they should have dealt with, but now we might have to waiver them because of the delay, that it cannot be explained because COVID cannot be blamed for this. These cases were long before COVID. On GBV, I know that before COVID, there were consultations with universities. I just want to know that how far did those consultations go and what was the follow-up and what is the progress. Social workers, I think National Treasury must also do this as a priority to provide funds to hire more social workers because at the ultimate end, all social workers that were trained by the Department of Social Development must all be absorbed. The issue of the dose of hope of keeping people for 72 hours and then what happens next, it is a futile exercise if people just are kept for 72 hours and they have nowhere else to go now. So I think as DSD as well, they must push that there are funds, that more shelters must be built, shelters that are under the Social Development Department and not under NGOs. I have a whole lot of other questions, Chairperson, but I'll send them in writing before I see my network is breaking now. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ngwenya. Over to you, Honorable Mvana.
Thanks, Chair. Chairperson, let me start by commending the department and of course it's the department through it's SASSA through the department in terms of the pay dates and pay points. In my area, it is clear for the pay points. They have just distributed on time. And in terms of trying to put the monies through the banks, yes, what we have said to them, I think they have taken the advice. You get the old age grant on the 3rd, and then you get the following one of people with disability on the 4th, and then you get that one on the 5th, which is what we requested to do. So we really commend them. At least now you could see that the queues are reduced by that arrangement that has been made by SASSA. The other thing that I would like to request, man, for the department, it's not in the report, but can't we please apply a uniformity in all the provinces and trying to reduce the long queues that are sometimes in social development? People are crying. I think one of the honorable members raised it, but she raised it on a low door and I'm raising on a high door. I don't know the strategy that or the plan that they can come up and advise the provinces. This is really unbearable. For seeing queues, people are driven back to come on such and such. They are given slips and numbers. I don't know what is happening, but people are always complaining about the queues that are long in the offices of the social development. And you might find out we lost most of the social workers because I think they were not cautious, or I don't know what has happened, but most of the social workers in our area, we have lost them due to COVID-19. So can they come up with strategies rather than to drive back the people that have already in the queue? The last one, Chair, in the department's report, 2017 and 2018. It frustrates this. Maybe I might have missed it on what is it that is going to happen in the columns that they are saying unresolved. Maybe I need to get, I'm not going to go to slide by slide, because from slide 1 you'll get the column that is saying unresolved, still unresolved. What's going to, because it's coming up time and again, year by year, if they don't resolve the findings of the AG. I'm concerned about that. Thanks, Chair. Let me stop there. I think others have been raised by other honorable members.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mvana. From my side, my question to the department is that I've actually noted that the Auditor General will continue to raise concerns with findings, and then those concerns will remain incomplete. I think Honorable Mvana was also trying to check on what happens to the unresolved findings, and then the in-progress issue. It has been raised also by Honorable Mvana. And then to SASSA, on the progress on audit findings relating to grant beneficiary files without supporting documents or incomplete files. How far is the progress on completion of scanning in local offices? And then also, what is the time frame for the completion of file audit process? And then on the progress on audit findings relating to outstanding, irregular and fruitless cases. What time frame has been set to ensure that those cases that have to be in the elementary and immediate levels of progress are resolved speedily? And then my last question to the NDA on the supply chain management, I would like to find out what is the reason for the NDA not addressing the 0% non-compliance with regard to the BEE Act reporting in the financials, and also what could be the implication of this? Thank you very much, honorable members. Over to you, Honorable DG, or Acting DG, for the responses. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you very much to the members for the questions and the comments. Maybe let's do it this way. Let me ask Mutani to quickly deal with the issue of internal audit raised by Honorable Ngwenya, and then I will deal with 1 or 2 issues after that, and then we'll ask the NDA to respond to the questions raised to the NDA, and then we'll ask SASSA to respond to those questions. Chair, maybe just to also just welcome the minister. She's now joined the meeting, and then we will then get the minister to speak at the end, the DM and then the minister. So Mutani, if you can quickly respond to the relationship between internal audits and management quickly.
Thank you, Acting DG and the committee. Basically, the role of internal audit with regards to risk management processes is to review or evaluate the systems that management have put in place in order to address the risk within the organization, and advise them accordingly, in order to improve on the effort that management have put in the systems to improve the risk management processes. So basically, internal audit is there to advise and improve the systems that management have put in place within the organization. So we do have a relationship with management. We work together in improving the internal control that the organization have put in place to address all issues or risk within the organization. Thank you.
Thank you, Mutanya. Let me just change the approach around very quickly. Let me get the NDA CEO to respond, and then get SASSA to respond, and then I will respond to some of the other queries that have been made in the meeting. So can we get the NDA CEO, please?
Thank you, Chairperson. On a question by Honorable Member Abrams, Member Erison Bilankulu, on board members by the representatives of board members from government departments, that since they had declared in their respective departments they were not sure if they were supposed to declare for the second time as members of the board. However, with the guidance of the AG, informally wanting to check clarity, the AG had advised that indeed they were supposed to have declared, because it's an independent process which is board members. So on that one, it has been resolved. The members have since declared. On the part of the SCM vacancies by member Aris as well, member Abrams, is the same process to say the adverts closed in end of July. The processes of shortlisting and the sifting and shortlisting was a process by HR, but we are looking into having our interviews during this month, which is second week of September. By end of September, we should have finalized all the processes. If the candidates are available immediately, we'll then be happy to appoint already in September. So we are on course with that process. In terms of member Abrams of the request to resend the presentation with the amounts clearly outlined, we are happy to provide that, especially with relating to the 96 transactions. We are happy to provide that as well. Member Masango, Honorable Masango, had asked that if finance is able to give the overall percentage in terms of how far we've fared in addressing those. In a specific number, we had 65 number of findings as AG's recommendations for the plan. 40 has been resolved, which translates to 62% of such, with the 7% finalized already by last week through the board processes. So we are at that, but CFO will add if I am missing some of the percentage in terms of figures. Member Manganye, on the 40% of fruitless and wasteful expenditure, I want to take an approach of making a reference to the example that was given by the ADG on that some of those matters relate to the late cancellation of accommodation. When you interrogate the matter, it stands out to say it was cancelled on time by the respective staff member. However, by the travel agent, it was delayed to be communicated to the hotel or accommodation where that person was referred to have been accommodated. Same with the hiring of cars and flights. You'll find that the cancellation request was done on time. However, the travel agent could not communicate it on time. So in those instances, it's hard to pin down on the staff member to say that they have breached in terms of fruitless and wasteful expenditure. And the criminal identification thereof, it's a process that the CFO had outlined, and I would wish a CFO to give more clarity on that one, to say in the translated ones, the analyzed one and the referrals that have the criminal implications, what the process that is supposed to be undertaken. And Honorable Ngwenya, I think you touched on immediate appointment or finalization of the recruitment of the SCM. It's a process that I've spoken to say we're looking forward to say in the next 2 weeks we should have finalized the process. If the candidate is available to assume, we're ready to go. But those who are maybe yet to serve a month notice wherever coming from, it will delay us in that process. Honorable Stock, in the process of 0% compliance implication, I would want that to be addressed directly by the CFO if a chairperson would allow that, just as an add-on. Thank you, Chairperson. CFO.
Thank you, ma'am. So in terms of the questions that were raised, I think the CEO has covered us in terms of the responses. But specifically, if I can talk about the 62% progress on dealing with the findings that were raised in the 18-19 year and how the risks relating thereto have been alleviated, particularly with the leases. I think the alleviation of risk there would be the exiting of those contracts which have resulted in irregular expenditure. So that is an action that we have taken in the current financial year, and you will see the results coming through going forward. With regards to the asset management, so we've undertaken the process to appoint an asset management officer, and we've improved our controls, particularly with regards to the transfer of assets between our offices.
So we've implemented a number of controls with regards thereto, including the revision of our asset management policy. So that should contribute to the alleviation of risks in that regard. With regards to partnership, which is a process we are now embarking on after seeking the guidance and obtaining it from National Treasury. So that will unfold as well in the current year and should alleviate the risks in the implementation of third-party funds, which has been quite a substantial risk for us as an organization. And with regards to the performance management findings, so we've spent a significant amount of money in developing an information management system that will assist us in verifying the performance information that we have been reporting to ensure that it is credible and it can be verified by the internal and external auditors, and that should alleviate the risks with regards to those findings. Then with regards to the findings where there has been 0% performance. So at the time of assessment, when this report by internal audit was produced, it was at 0%. And mainly they relate to petty cash procedures, which form part of our revised finance policy. So we have since addressed that. The others relate to reporting in terms of the BBBE Act, which will cover the last question as well. So that is a compliance requirement in terms of reporting our compliance with the BBBE Act and what is entailed in there. And this reporting, we will now we will report on that compliance requirement in our annual report, which will still be submitted at the end of October. So we will cover that finding in there. And the implications are not, it's not that we have not been complying with the BBBE Act. So we have been in terms of all our FTM and procurement processes, but it's just the reporting thereof. So reporting that we have complied. And as I said, we'll take care of that in our annual report, which is still to be submitted for this year. And obviously with the previous year's reporting, there's nothing much that we can do with that, but we can only fix the non-compliance going forward. And then with regards to the information required on the legacy contracts, the 96 transactions, so the total amounts to 4.5 million that we will be submitting for condonement, but we will submit that information that is required. And what is going on now is also looking at, so the 96 transactions specifically relate to legacy contracts for expenditure that was incurred in the 1920 year. And what legal is busy with now is also looking at expenditure that was incurred that we're carrying forward in our brought forward balance of irregular expenditure that relate to the past 5 years, starting from 2012. And with those, there would be a similar case where we would then, a lot of these employees have left, we have received value for money, and the high-level assessment indicates there has been no fraud, corruption, criminal activity, because we can look at the process. So it wasn't a competitive bidding process according to the PFMA, but there was a process because a lot of these the expenditure relates to lease contracts. So we had used an agent who had done the quotations and the process for us. But it wasn't a process that was sanctioned by the PFMA. So by looking at that process, we have identified that there has been no fraud and corruption involved in those transactions. And those transactions, well, it amounts to about, going back to 2012, about 61 million. And even those within the next 2 months, we should be in a process to send that through to Treasury for condonement. But we will provide the full breakdown of that. I think I've covered, yes, so I think I've covered that. The rest of the questions have been answered by the CEO. Thank you, CEO.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, ADG.
Thank you very much, CEO and CFO. Let me ask SASSA to quickly respond to those issues, and then I will come in and then give over to the Minister, the Deputy Minister and the Minister. Thank you.
Thank you very much, DG. Let me ask the EM grants to respond to the grants issues, and followed by the CIO to respond to the issues of the scanning and the online. Dai?
Thank you, CFO. Good morning, honourable members. The questions that have been asked around the lapsed grants, the 6,000 grants that were lapsed at the end of February, those were for grants that had not been collected by the clients at all over a consecutive period of 7 months. In terms of the legislation, we're supposed to collect it for a consecutive period of 3 months. However, given the changes to the payment environment, we actually gave it a slightly longer time than the 3 months. So we did lapse those grants. We are very aware of which grants they are, and if the clients do come in, then we're able to find out why they didn't collect their grant and then process their reinstatement in line with the legislation. The money for those grants when they were lapsed did not come back to SASSA. We felt that it was, again, because of the change in the payment environment, it was better that we left it in the accounts with the post office so that if the clients came forward, they could at least have access to those funds while we were sorting out the issues related to the grants, so that they were not, it is an ongoing process for us to deal with those grants. What we will do at the end of the day, if the clients do not come forward at all, is then we will recover that money back from the post office and it will come back into the SASSA books. If it's in the current financial year, if it relates to a previous financial year, it has to go to National Treasury Revenue Fund. The question around the e-vouchers, we're still in a procurement process to procure a service provider or service providers who can provide the e-voucher. So we're not able to say at this stage which retail stores they would be working with. However, what I do want to stress is in the terms of reference, which will be advertised, that whoever wins the tender has got to have a process to be able to empower the local spaza stores and the local store owners, so that it's not only the big established retail stores that would be able to accept those vouchers. The whole process of reviving the township economy and stimulating local economic development is absolutely critical, and this contract has to show us how that will be done. The other question that I just want to respond to before I hand back to the CFO was around the uptake of the bank channel for the payment of grants. I just want to explain very briefly that we have approximately 8 million grants that are paid through the post office, well, 8 million beneficiaries who receive the grants through the post office. However, they don't all get paid through the most expensive channels. The post office offers 3 channels, which is the national payment system, where we pay R6.65 per transaction, and then the over-the-counter and the cash pay points. And obviously the over-the-counter and the cash pay points are a lot more expensive. However, of the 8 million beneficiaries who get paid through the post office, approximately 90% collect their grants through the national payment infrastructure, where we pay R6.65 for those transactions. So it does help us to manage the cost of the payment contract with the post office. And then just lastly, in terms of the information dissemination to our local offices, it is a challenge. However, as head office and as our regional offices as well, we try to ensure that whatever communication around the standardization of services, but there are certainly challenges in certain areas. And if those are brought to our attention, we try and address them straight away. Thank you so much, CFO. I will hand back to you.
Thank you very much. CFO, are you still coming in?
Yes, I'm coming in. Mr. Mahlangu can come in before I come in on the other issues.
Thank you. Good morning, Honorable Chairperson and the members of the committee and the colleagues. With regard to the online application process, I want to confirm that the development has been completed, the testing has been completed. We are currently finalizing the procurement of licensing for access by all the users that will be using the online application for the grants. So that will not be deterred. In the next month or so, we should be done with all the procurement processes relating to licensing, and the application will be able to run. With regard to the scanning, Cesar Vundula will just give us updates in terms of how far they are with the back scanning and the local office operations. Cesar?
Thank you. Good morning, Chairperson and honorable members. With regard to the scanning in local offices, as asked by Honorable Bilankulu, we have got 53 offices where scanning is taking place. In addition, we have got 64 offices where the scanning solution has been configured and installed. And the plan is to roll out the scanning to all the local offices by mid-2021. Maybe I should add that, the focus for us is to make sure that we roll out the online applications because all the supporting documentation. So although the focus will be on rolling out the ongoing scanning solution in the local offices, greater effort will be put towards the implementation of the online grant applications, because that's where we believe as an organization there is more value in terms of addressing all the documentation which is outstanding. And in the meantime, I also want to share with honorable members that for those offices where scanning has not yet been implemented, our 9 regional offices have got scanning bureaus where the documents that come from the remaining offices are being scanned. Thank you very much.
Ntate Chauke, are you back?
So
you
yes,
covered?
I'm back. I'm back, Digit, just to deal with the other questions quickly.
Okay.
There was the question that relates to the consequence management, whether there are any other legal processes that are happening. Currently, the disciplinary process is purely an internal disciplinary process, but however, in other cases, we have sourced the legal advices or the people to initiate to coming from the legal fraternity. If the cases, especially for the big 7 cases, but the rest of the other cases are internal arrangements. We do not have any other legal processes other than that. There was an issue relating to the delay in relation to National Treasury and what more we intend doing. I think we have to escalate a meeting between the CEO and the DG in Treasury just to iron up and to understand whether Treasury is struggling with the condonation of the cases or they require any further information which they have not communicated to us. And that we believe that at least before the end of this month, we will have been able to have that further engagement in that regard. There was a question that related with the risk management committee. The committee is composed by the internal staff and external people. We have about 3 members who are external, and we have about 3 that are internal members that form part of the risk committee. And their function primarily is to oversee what management are taking as steps to manage the risk and the inherent risk, both the strategic risk and the operational risk that exist in the organization. So management does provide an update on quarterly basis, but also when a need arises. Then that committee advises on some of the issues that management need to continue monitoring in that regard. There was a proposal about the 7 officials that SASSA may need to consider criminal charges around those that have resigned. I could try to explain that part of when financial misconduct is committed, whether it's done via regular expenditure or is done via fruitless and wasteful expenditure. If it's done via a regular expenditure, the first thing that we do is to assess whether there are losses that have been suffered by the organization. If there are losses that have been suffered by the organization, then a due process to recover those losses need to ensue, which will include GAD. So if we deem that a particular loss may have been incurred, then we can at least ensure that legal process. But if it purely is an issue that there was non-compliance of the prescript, but there were no losses that have been suffered by the organization, you can consider to condone that rather than to go to the courts trying to recover the money, because you will have received the value and the benefits of those goods and services. In terms of the fruitless and wasteful expenditure, in this regard, the amount becomes recoverable. Hence, all the fruitless and wasteful expenditure, we have taken them through a legal process to be able to deal with those cases. My last comment was to say, DG and Honorable Chair, that the cases that we have now for the long outstanding cases, we have finalized the system that we're reporting, online system that ICT has internally created. So it is easy for us to track them, but we're hopeful that those that of the 7 big cases, by the end of this financial year, we should have resolved them in totality because of the advanced stage where they are.
Thank you, Chair. Maybe very quickly, let me respond to. Hello? Thank you. Let me just quickly respond to 3 or 4 issues. The first one is to Honorable Manganyi's question around the number of staff in internal audit. We currently have 18 members of staff at DSD internal audit, and we are in the process of concluding a recruitment process for a director in that regard. The other question raised by Honorable Ngwenya around persons with disability. Maybe let me indicate that as a standing principle, we don't discriminate against anybody who applies because that would be completely wrong. So some of the challenges, though, is that we do have very limited persons with disability who apply in most cases, and so we do, however, in our applications include and encourage persons with disability to apply, disabilities to apply in all our applications. But I think the context around the past is important to note. One, the impact of COVID and how the 3 months lockdown, hard lockdown, rather than the processing of some of the posts. 2, the fact that we've had a function shift in the DSD where but a number of staff had shifted from the department to the presidency, some of which were persons with disabilities, have also impacted on our numbers. But 3, the fact that we are fresh out of a moratorium which was imposed on the department for a period of, I think, just over 2 years. And so those are all impacting and contextual elements to note when dealing with this issue. Let me close with this issue, which is a very difficult issue. So we this morning had a meeting at 7 o'clock with EXCO. And one of the issues we were deliberating about, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, is the implications of the imminent budget cuts by the National Treasury for the MTSF period. We were advised by the Treasury that there are budget cuts that are imminent and that are going to come. And so we've been sitting and cracking our heads in terms of how we're going to deal with this, because the impact is that it's going to certainly hamper the delivery of our programs. Particularly and most concerning are those programs which have legislative impacts and implications. And I can tell you now that even with regards to the employee of social workers, we're going to be impacted upon quite drastically. And I won't go into the specifics in terms of where the budget cuts are likely to happen. Safe to say that we are going to be engaging with Treasury around some of the proposals on budget cuts. And it's probably one of the most difficult things that we are going to have to face in the next 3 years, because they range from services both within the DSD to social grants impact thereof, to NDA, and it's going to be a very difficult journey for us, this Honorable Chair. And I can tell you now that in the next 3 years, if these budget cuts do ensue, and I'm told that they're imminent, and they go in the manner in which they are currently being proposed, they may impact quite heavily on the work of the department. So we're having to crack our heads and really think around how we're going to deal with some of these issues. Chair, let me leave it at that, and thank you for the questions. And come again. Oh yes, part of the budget cuts include a major cut on COE and how we are going to manage curbing personnel. And that is going to be one of the most difficult things, over and above other line function areas that we are going to be forced to reduce on drastically. So, Chair, yeah, it would be great, you know, if you know, I'm not sure whether it's possible or not in terms of the processes, but it'll be good at some point, perhaps, if this committee would also find a way of engaging with different committees, particularly that of finance, and see whether we could work something that won't impact on the delivery of our services, particularly noting that our services are to the most vulnerable in society. Thank you very much, Chair, and I'm sorry that we've taken slightly longer in this regard. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Acting DG and the team, for those responses. Honorable members, we are now moving to the next item, which is the update on the progress made to respond to COVID-19 pandemic issues. Over to you again, DG.
Thank you, Chair. Let me just deal with maybe just 3 or 4 things very quickly. Chair, let's go to that presentation quickly. So we're presenting an update on COVID-19 very quickly. Chair, I will not take long on this presentation because I think, excuse me, we've dealt with the bulk of the issues and some of them have not necessarily changed. So this will take us less than 3 minutes. Just Rapatli, if you can just get ready on your side in terms of SASSA and CEO.
ADG, can I disturb you for a minute, please?
Okay, DM.
Allow me before you move on to the next presentation.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Chair. There's just 3 things that I thought I just needed to round up in the previous presentations before we go into the next one. Just for members to note, I always say there's power in language and we educate each other. The correct term is not people that live with a disability. They are not living with, they are disabled people or people with disabilities. If members can just note that, because that's where disabled people start switching off. So that's very important. The second thing is that I think it's important for us when we talk about disabled people, we begin to say, when we say they are not applying, what is it that we did differently to accommodate them? Because you cannot look for blind people and advertise on Sowetan. And that is what is happening. And I don't know how many times I've talked about that. To say that it is wrong for anyone to say the recruitment of disabled people, that they don't respond. They cannot respond if you use the exact same strategies when you are actually targeting them, because they're not going to take their grant to buy a newspaper. You need to change your recruitment strategy. And that is something, Chair, I thought I needed to do, that I've kept on hammering on the department to say you can't. You have to change the strategy if you target disabled people. The last point is that, Chair, in terms of our BRR responses, I just wanted to, I identified a gap that I would like to just place for the Chair and the committee to just consider. Maybe it will help if we come back on a proper disability briefing that would assist members to be able to know what is left with yourselves as social development, so you can monitor us, and what went to the presidency. So that would then assist the oversight on issues of disability, because I don't think the committee has received a briefing on disability since the split, so that we are able to also report appropriately like we do on GBV, as well as HIV, Chairperson. That is important that the portfolio committee should at some stage request us to just come and talk, because those are the two things that we tend to just talk to the committee and just pass through them. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, DM. Oh, sorry.
I don't know who's speaking now. We can't hear.
I think the chair, Minister Honorable Stark.
We cannot hear him at all.
Yeah, we're also struggling to hear. Sorry.
I'll phone him now.
We're struggling. Can someone call the chair? Just don't hear him at all.
Yeah, I was still on the platform. Sorry, Acting DG. I was saying we know the issues that the DM is raising, and we hope that I mean the acting DG and the team, senior officials from the department and the entities, they've taken note of it. Acting DG, can we proceed?
Yes, Comrade Stock, we can hear you. Yes, we can, Comrade Stock. Honorable Stock, sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
We can.
Now we can. We didn't hear a word of what you said, Chair.
Oh, no, what I was saying is that we take note of the issues raised by the DM. She has raised critical and pertinent issues, and then we hope that the officials from the department, through yourself, acting DG, and then also the entities of the department, they've taken note of the issues raised by the DM, and then these are some of the issues that needs to be given attention to. But I also would like to officially welcome the Honorable Minister Mageba to the meeting. I see she has joined the meeting. We have received the apology earlier on when we started, Honorable Minister, that due to other commitments, will be joining us later on in the meeting. But we appreciate that you have set aside time and you are in the meeting. So I'm not sure if you want to say something now, Honorable Minister, or towards the end of the meeting. We can give you that opportunity if there's one or two issues that you want to reflect on.
No, thank you, Chairperson. I'd rather not disorganize the meeting. I've long been here. I've been listening, so I don't want to come in now. I'd rather do that at the end. Thank you very much.
Okay, no, thanks, Honorable Minister. DG, let me give over to you, and then you deal with the next item on the agenda. Just the high-level summary on the update on the COVID-19 response and all of that. Over to you, Acting DG. Thanks.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, and thank you indeed for the guidance from the Deputy Minister on those matters. I will certainly work through those accordingly. High level, Chair, we will take less than 5 minutes on this one. We are saying we're still on level 2, and we are saying that with level 2 restrictions have eased out, for lack of a better word. We are saying that we're still working on the issue of directions. And of course, this sometimes does take a while because we've got to consult quite extensively, lest we find ourselves wanting, with the number of areas. So we are saying that we are dealing with the issue of directions, and we're still consulting quite widely to try and close those in the next few days. Now, let me just quickly deal with the biggest challenge, which is increasing levels of abuse of alcohol. This is probably the crux of our challenge, and we are saying that there are measures in place, and we must appreciate the committee for inviting Prof, I think 2 weeks back, to come and speak to the areas of alcohol. We will be engaging with him quite closely to see how best we can take some of the areas forward. In fact, some of the proposals that were put forward by the Prof have already been processed through various fora within the government structures and are beginning to take implementation in this regard. I must also indicate that, of course, at level 2, you know that there are reduced hours of selling of alcohol, including reduced days. These are some of the proposals that the Prof had previously spoken to, and we've started moving on those. But the critical thing here is around the finalization of the liquor bill and the amendments thereof. We believe that this is currently with the Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition, and they're looking at those areas. And the amendments of this bill will of course include a number of other areas, including areas of marketing and of course pricing, together with National Treasury. Discussions around that. In terms of increasing excise taxes, etc. But also, I think the Department of Transport is looking at various measures around how to reduce the blood alcohol content, and I think there are discussions still in that regard, which the Department of Transport is leading on. In terms of the DSD, I must indicate that the treatment centers, there's been a call for us to increase access to treatment centers, but also to increase the number of prevention services, of accessibility to prevention services, including education and awareness campaigns. And we are doing our best to work with the provinces and other relevant stakeholders in this regard to try and close those areas. The next bullet item, maybe just before this slide, let me say that we continue to have a challenge around our institutions. Our institutions still have to close various areas within provinces, and of course at national, when there are COVID cases that are detected. Of course, we have to follow the protocol in that regard, in terms of ensuring that the areas are closed and so on, and decontaminated, etc. But the other unfortunate thing that continues is that we do continue to have fatalities throughout the DSD sector. The impact of COVID has really robbed us of a number of people, and of course, as you indicated, Chair, the latest being our dear sister who was the DDG, Ms. Numalo. So you can go to the next slide. I won't say much on the next slide. Safe to say that the movement of children is allowed at level 2 because interprovincial travel is now allowed, and restrictions have been lessened. Maybe just to also indicate that all our facilities are open with very strict measures and compliance to COVID-19 protocols. Next slide. I won't say much around ECD. Safe to say that we have given very clear instructions to provinces, directions or directives rather, to ensure that all NPOs are paid, and that ECDs continue to be paid, including, in fact, let me say that it is important to note that ECDs were being paid even at level 5 and at level 4. There were challenges because children were not able to go to school, etc. But we continued to ensure that we try and pay ECDs to the best of our ability and across all provinces, and we advised all provinces to do same. I think we continue to provide support in terms of PPE. The Bangasali program I indicated last week is being upscaled to deal with the registration because a number of our people, or rather of our ECDs, continue to face, or rather are not registered, and we have to ramp up the registration program, and we're still continuing with that. The important thing also to highlight is that ECDs are open. ECDs are not closed. We have not said that ECDs must close. They remain open. And of course, subject to measures in line with the court decision by Judge, I think it was Judge Fabricas, if I'm not mistaken. Then, in terms of food security, very quickly, we continue to say the demand exceeds the availability, and again, we've engaged with Treasury to see how best we can deal with some of these areas. Maybe we can go to the NDA. CEO, if you have any updates insofar as what's on the screen as per our discussion, when we put this together, please do so and share those briefly now. Immediately after that, I would request that Diane from SASSA then speak to the updates on COVID insofar as social grants are concerned.
Thank you, ADG. Thank you, Chairperson. On this one, I think the update is as Pelas scaled our to 2,000 and our civil society organization from 52 to 200. So that's the update currently. And in terms of CARA funding, we have transferred to a number 168 NPOs that were qualifying to receive the first tranche for them to implement the programs on gender-based violence and femicide. However, I'm safe to say that from those 168, we'll continue to monitor how they implement their activities, and the reports thereof will kick the release of the second tranche for them to continue. And the program is over 2 years. So we are finalizing with other processes in terms of the outstanding. The total that we're qualifying to get the grants is 312. So the 168 already has been transferred. I think I need to really bring to the attention of the honorable members that the process, as we might appreciate the fact that we've been stalled by the lockdown from level 5 right up to level 3, where we had limited access to offices and the site visit and verification in terms of monitoring. So we are doing the best we can with the regulations now relaxed a bit to fast track the finalization of verification, because we have to administer our due processes. It's not a matter of just by way of being okayed to be funded, then we just transfer. We take our time to conduct due processes. In terms of the update on impact of business continuity, I must indicate that I've approved the tools of trade remotely from those who are affected and areas of their performance who are critical in terms of the service that they render, to provide them with tools of trade remotely. So the stability and the continuity, we were not that much affected, except to say that in terms of the capacity building, which needs the interface with the civil society members, has been severely dented, but we are finalizing the app or the platform where we can engage with the civil society organization, especially those networks and the big forums who can mentor and assist the emerging ones. So that's the development of the app that will assist us to have a hybrid approach of providing the mobilization, the dialoguing, as well as the capacity building process online. We are going to have an e-learning, so to speak. Thank you, DG. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you, CEO Diane.
Thank you, DG. I'm not sure if you have the presentation, if we can just go through. Otherwise, I will just speak to it. I'm sure it has been shared. Okay, thank you. If we can continue. Just to say that, and I'm not going to repeat a lot of it, but just to say that our normal social grant payments are in the region of about 15 billion Rand per month. With the top-up amounts that have been introduced since May, we're now distributing about 20 billion Rand a month. And then to just indicate that of the 40.9 billion which was given to us for the period of 6 months, we've already spent about 27 billion of it. This slide here just gives an indication per month of what we have spent on the top-up grants. The honourable members will remember that in May we did the top-up for the child support grants per child, but as from June that moved to a top-up amount per caregiver, hence the change in numbers between May and June. We're now spending, as I say, about 5 billion Rand a month on the top-up of the social grants. If we can go to the next one. Then in terms of the special, the special COVID grant, the 350 Rand, next slide. And I'm going to continue talking. Okay, thank you. We've received a total of 8.8 million applications. And since we've been able to open the system to receive the applications by asylum seekers and the special permit holders, we've received 486 applications for asylum seekers and 584 for the special permit holders. Sorry, it's the previous slide, which is 39 Angolan special permit holders, 227 from Lesotho, and 318 from Zimbabwe. We're currently in the process of verifying all of those through the Department of Home Affairs because they have a separate database to the population register for the asylum seekers and the special permit holders. We've spent about 4.8 billion rand on the special relief grant for the first 3 months, May, June, and July. And I did want to just share with the honourable members that we have at last got the channel for the cash send open. And the first cash send payments, there were about 40,000 of them that went through, were actually cashed out on Monday and Tuesday of this week. So we're very pleased that that brings in the extra payment channel that we've been looking for. This table just provides a summary per month of applications received for the special relief grant, the amount, the ones that have been approved, and the actual clients that have been paid. As you can see, for May, we've only got 1,335 that have not yet been paid. And those are because there were challenges with the banking information that people gave to us. So we've had to go back to them to get an update of the information so that we're able to pay them. The 474,000 and the 876,000 for July that have not yet been paid, those are either in the banking process to get the bank details that the clients have provided verified through the verification process, or they were in the queue for the cash send. And as I say, the first cash send ones went through yesterday and on Monday. So we will see those numbers of the people not yet paid for June and July coming down quite substantially. We are now starting with the processing of the applications received for August, and those payments will start from next week as soon as the big social grant payments have been done. We are still hoping that we would be able to start processing the payments for September. Those will be go through towards the end of the month. Qualify are actually more accurate using the bank means testing as well. Also, just to remind the honourable members that every month we reassess all the applications, even those that were approved in the previous month, because we just need to confirm whether there's been any change in the situation of the applicants for the 350 grant. So it is a complete validation process that we go through every month. Of the just over 10 billion rand that we've got for the special relief grant, we have spent about 4.8 billion rand to date. We are starting to deal with the appeals that have come in, and that should change the spending quite significantly, especially as we're able to do the means testing through the banks, because the number of the clients who've been rejected, and you can see the numbers are quite substantial, would be reconsidered through that process as well, because we would then be able to confirm with very current information whether there is any inflow into their bank accounts, and then look at the decision that was made previously. Thank you. We can move to the next one. We thought, just as an update to the committee, it would be quite important just to give information around the number of staff within SASSA who have tested positive, and where we are with that. Sorry, Tivani, if you can move forward. For the period from April right through to the end of July, okay, sorry, it is not in this presentation, but I'll just speak to it. For the period from April to July, there have been a total of 411 staff members, SASSA staff members, who have tested positive. We're currently doing the assessments and updating our information to include the information for August. We have also, unfortunately, within SASSA had 12 deaths during this period, which is really concerning. In terms of the infections, Eastern Cape is certainly the highest. Of the 411 that are reported, 154 have been in the Eastern Cape, closely followed by KZN with 69 and then Gauteng with 51. We just wanted to bring that to the honourable members' attention because it does impact on our ability to provide services. The majority of these cases have been at our local offices, but what we are doing is making sure that we keep our staff working on a rotational basis at local offices particularly, so that 50% of the staff are in a team and on duty at any one time, which means that if there is a positive case within a team, we have the second team to bring in and ensure business continuity. It does, however, impact on our ability to serve the kind of numbers that we need to serve at our local offices, but that is something that we're constantly dealing with. Thank you very much, DG. That is our update.
Thank you very much, Honorable Stocker. We are done in terms of the presentation update on COVID-19. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair.
Thank you very much for the presentation, Acting DG. I propose that we deal also with the last presentation so that when we open up for questions, because I'm looking at the time and we're running behind schedule. So if you agree with me, honorable members, can we allow the Acting DG to deal with the second presentation, which is the presentation on the Children's Amendment Bill. And then once that presentation has been presented to us, then we can take clarity seeking questions, deal with the responses, and then also give the minister a few minutes to do some reflections. I'm not sure if honorable members agree with me. Is that fine? Can we take the second presentation? And then whilst
yes, agreed.
Okay. So Acting DG proceed, and then in the meantime, we'll be taking, honorable members will be making notes and raising their hands on the system. Over to you, Acting DG. Thanks.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. We'll take just under 5 minutes on this one. Of course, there were discussions around the Children's Amendment Bill, and we were tasked by the Chairperson to meet with the legal unit within Parliament, and we've done so. And I'm going to ask Advocate Dladla to quickly take us through the presentation from a high-level perspective. Thank you, Advocate Dladla.
Okay, now thank you very much, Chairperson, honorable members, Minister, and DM for the opportunity. Chairperson, in last week, the Portfolio Committee requested rather task both legal services team from DSD as well as the Parliament to look at the possibility of splitting the bill, the amendment bill, because there's a concern that the time that we have now until the 26th of November rather is too late, so it may not be possible for the committee to process the bill and then by that time. So there was a request that we look at the whether it's possible to split the bill. So a meeting was held between legal services for both sides, and then of course the secretariat was also supposed to be part of the meeting, but there were hiccups in that regard. So and then what happened is that Chair, there were two options that we put on the table. The first option is to split the bill and consider all amendments that address the foster care court order. And also the second option is to process the comprehensive package of the bill. And then, of course, before we started with that, with option one, we were advised also that both options are possible. And then if the bill is, say, for instance, option one, that is the bill is split, it won't require the state law advisors to reissue certification. And also it won't require the department also to issue a new notice to introduce, which was done a week ago. So in that, the bill will just be, as it is, will be presented to the committee. The committee will simply reject the amendments that they are not going to be considered if the bill is split. So basically, that was the first issue that we discussed and also we agreed on. Okay, on option one, Chairperson, splitting the bill, we were of the view that it may work against the department. Also, it may not do justice to the process as well because of the time that we have currently. Because there are also regulations that are supposed to be passed, promulgated rather, so that they were able to implement the comprehensive local solution with foster care. So that means that even if we we will split the bill and deal with all the, we address all issues that has to do with foster care, but still the regulations will still need to be promulgated as well, so that we're able to implement the act once the bill has been signed off. So, and then that will go beyond the 26th of November. And then also Parliament will also be disadvantaged in that it won't be necessary be able to go through all its processes, as we are aware that there is public participation, also there's due process and all that. So those are the challenges that you may have with regards to option one, that is when the bill is played. So we can go to the second slide. Okay, as option two, Chairperson, entails allowing Parliament to comply with all legislative process requirements, which implies that a longer period for processing the bill will go beyond 26th of November. But we're of the view that will also be the advantage of the department as a comprehensive package, which not only deal with foster care, but with all other longer-standing amendments that are incorporated in the bill, will be taken care of. So there's an indirect connection between the rest of the bill and the provisions that we deal with foster care. And the second option also will entail that the court, if let's say the committee opts for option two, then we will have to approach the court for the extension, and that the department request Parliament to assist with advising the department on the approximate time frame that will be required to, that the department asks for the particular extension, and all the other support documentation that you may require for in this regard. So that is an option two on a high level. And then we came to the view that the bill, our recommendation was that the bill is attracted huge public interest, which necessitates the regulation of the sector comprehensively and not in piecemeal. And that we are recommending that option two be considered to ensure smooth running of the process. And then, of course, this will entail that if the proposal committee decides to rather opt to option two, it will require that immediately as we approach the court and then ask for extension of the order timelessly, not that we wait up until the last minute to do so. Which then, if let's say, if the proposal committee is of the view that we have to approach the court to extend with regards to option two, then it can be done with immediate effect. It be made by next week Monday. We'll have maybe submitted papers to court addressing the issue of extension. Okay, thank you. That is what I can say. That is outcome of the meeting that we had over the weekend. Chair, thanks very much.
Thank you, Advocate Laja. This is a work in progress, Chair, and will further be guided by the committee in terms of the next steps. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you.
So sorry, Chair. I'm sorry.
Also, thanks for the presentation that was made now on the Children's Amendment Bill. I would now give an opportunity to the parliamentary advisor also just make an input before we move forward. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Sorry,
can you hear me?
Honorable Stock,
Hello,
we can't hear you, unfortunately. I think.
Oh.
Now you can talk. We can hear you when you talk now.
Oh, okay. No, that's fine. Can you hear me now, honorable members? You can.
Sound is really bad.
Yeah.
Chair, you said we must give to the Parliament. Chair?
Can you hear me now, honorable members?
Yes, we can hear you if you can talk louder.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you, Chair.
Oh, no, thank you very much. No, I was saying thank you very much for the presentation on the Children's Amendment Bill. It's work in progress. And then it's very clear also about the option 1, what is going to happen, option 2. And then the department is in favor of the option 2. And then also a proposal to approach the court on an urgent basis.
We are gone again.
Can we give over to the parliamentary legal advisor to make an input or to comment on the presentation? Over to you, Mr. Mjenga. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Chair. It's Mr. Njikela. Standing in for Mr. Mjengane, who is traveling with another committee. Chair, I have listened to the presentation by Advocate Ladla. It is indeed in line with what I've been briefed on, that the two teams had met, looked at both options, and they have both agreed that the second option, which is to make an application for the extension of the deadline, should be followed. Chair, the chairperson will recall that the bill has been classified as a Section 76 bill. That on its own requires that the bill be dealt with in a manner that will allow the provinces to make sufficient inputs on it. That public participation process, from the documents that I've been briefed on, there is already significant public interest in what this bill is providing. Splitting that bill is not likely to change that. So it is preferable that Parliament and the department approach the court together and make an application for an extension to allow for those public participation processes to be followed to the letter. Otherwise, there is a risk that we may try to fast track the bill, and at the end of the day, there may be challenges on the public participation process. So for that reason, Chair, we will strongly support the proposal by the department that option 2 be considered. Mr. Mjengana, of course, will work with Advocate Lala to see what support Parliament should be giving to the department in making that application. That is a legal process that can be handled between the two legal teams. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Njikela, for the input and comment on the process. Honorable members, those are the two presentations, but before we allow members also to raise hands, I'm going to make a request which I omitted earlier on. We are supposed to allow the committee secretary also to present the program to us as to what is going to happen. So can we allow the committee secretary? Over to you, Lindy. Just present the program quickly, then we take the honorable members.
Thank you very much, Acting Chair. I'll just make a presentation if the committee agree to go with option 2, which requires for the full public participation by both houses. This is the presentation is as follows. Just a minute, please. Can you see the presentation?
Gabriel, I'm calling you from a company.
Yes, we can see the presentation.
Yes. Okay. If the committee agree to go to take option 2, the committee will kickstart the process by inviting the department on the 15th and the 16th of September, which is due constituency period. We can make an application, a special application to meet during constituency. We set aside 2 days because I believe that there is a comprehensive bill. There are so many amendment clauses to be amended. To accommodate the issue of public participation, the committee can look at advertising for the bill for 6 weeks to allow the public to make comments on the bill, which will start from the 16th until the 27th of November. And then the Parliament will close on 30 November. So next year, in 2021, February and March, we'll have public hearings on the bill, which is, I think, mostly will be virtual. And then in March, we'll go to April, we'll go to the formal stage of the bill. In April, formal stage of the bill and consultation with other departments, because I believe there are other departments affected by amendments, for example, the Department of Justice as well as the Department of Basic Education. In April, we'll go to a formal stage, and then in May, we'll conclude the bill and then for debate in the NA, and subsequently, that bill will be referred to the NCOP. In June, the NCOP will kickstart their process to invite the department to brief it in the select committee, and then they will advertise, and then the permanent delegates will go to various provinces to brief legislatures on the bill. And then in August until September, they will follow the 6-week cycle. And then apparently, I think the bill by September, it will be done. I've made communication with the committee secretary from the select committee just to get an indication as to whether the start time will be dealt with, will be met. They said that they are more than willing by September, October, that bill will be completed even before that. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Lindiwe, for the presentation. Honorable members, we have received 2 presentations, including the one on the program. And then the presentation was quite clear. Option 1 is out based on the consultation from the Department Parliament. So there's a proposal on the table for option number 2, which is a comprehensive process. The process also has been, there's a proposal also about the program as to what needs to happen from now on up to next year. So I'm tabling it now. I'm giving honorable members an opportunity to make comments, but in your comments, please assist the meeting and assist us. Indicate whether we should support that we move with option 2 and all of that. Over to you, honorable members. Lindy, I'm not sure if you've got a list of honorable members. On my side, I don't see any hands that have been raised on the system. Honorable members, the floor is yours. It's all yours.
Chair, if you would allow me, I just want to ask something for clarity, please.
Oh, okay. Over to you, DM.
Just very briefly, Chair, if the legal advisor for Parliament can assist me, maybe I am a little behind so that I'm able to. The amendments of the children's bill that we're bringing are not necessarily substantive issues. They're technical amendments, and normally we deal with the two differently. Listening to the committee secretary's program proposal that the bill is likely to go out of Parliament by 2022. I just want to check whether parliamentary legal actually took into consideration that these are not substantive amendments, they are technical and administrative. Is there any reason why the whole shebang is required? Because normally when you do technical and administrative amendments instead of substantive amendments, there's different processes. I just need clarity on that. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable DM. Mr. Njikela, can you quickly just clarify the DM on this issue?
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, having looked at the bill that was provided to me now, we are looking at a bill that has close to 150 clauses emanating from a court judgment. And the court judgment is worded in a very interesting way that the department must provide legal solutions to the problem of foster care. That sounds to me like substantive amendments that have to be made. Having looked at the comments by the state law advisor in their certification opinion, it is clear that there is a likelihood of a number of issues arising. They have flagged, for instance, the issue of basic education and the consultation therewith, which in their view, they are not convinced that it has taken place properly. So it seems to me, looking at close to 50 clauses of an amendment bill with a mandate that is as broad as finding legal solutions to the problems of foster care in the country, it seems to me that one will not be prudent to say it is technical. There are a lot of substantive issues that may have to be considered in the deliberation of the committee. But most importantly, Chair, the issue of public participation. If you consider the NA processes that have to be followed, and you add to that the processes that the NCOP has to follow in making sure that the provinces are taking full part in the deliberations around the bill. Like I indicated, the bill is already classified as a Section 76, which suggests that those processes must take place. The provinces must get their mandates, and they must come back to Parliament with their mandates to vote on the bill. So there seems to be a consideration that, given the extensive process of consultation that is to take place, it cannot be done in any fast-track manner without putting Parliament, at least, at the risk of being accused of short-circuiting the process. Having looked at the memo on the object of the bill itself and looking at the number of stakeholders that have been consulted in terms of that, and those stakeholders are likely to wish to express a view on the bill when it is considered by Parliament again. I definitely do not think it is as technical as it was suggested. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jikela.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair, for the clarity. Just to indicate, then it means, given that the clarity had been given, Chair, I think it is also from our side a social development, because now it means we're no longer just addressing that which the court requested us to. It means the committee should be ready and brace itself for a wholesale amendment of the 157 clauses. So then that becomes another story. But thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, DM. Lindy, can we
just
get
to okay, just to give clarity regarding the DM's comments around the completion of the bill, it will not be completed in 2022. It will be completed next year, 2021, September, October. Thank you very much.
Yo, that's better. I was about to ask the question, why 22, not 21? Thanks, Lindy.
Okay, thanks, honorable members. Lindy, can you just give us an indication about the honorable members who wants to comment or maybe raise clarity seeking questions from your side?
Chair, I don't have any indication from members. Maybe they will just press the button now. I'll just check the WhatsApp. Maybe they just indicated via WhatsApp that they want to ask questions.
Okay. Honorable members, an opportunity is given now to you. Make comments, post clarity seeking questions before we proceed. Is there anyone who wants to make an input?
Yeah, Chairperson, it's Mvana.
Okay.
Can I continue, Chair?
Yeah, please continue, Honorable Mvana.
Okay, thanks, Chair. I think, Chair, it is clear out of the explanation that we got. But what we have to do is really to push for 21, because I don't think it's on for us to work towards 2022. It's just a long period, and this is overdue. So now my suggestion is that I think we're on track now. Let's push and move for 2021 rather. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mvana. Any other member who wants to make any comment?
Thanks, Chair. Bridget Masango.
Oh, Honorable Masango, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. I also would like to thank the Department and Parliament for their presentation. and just say that I would obviously support option 2, and the program that the committee secretary has presented seems to be the only workable way, and I am in total support of that. And obviously one would then expect that there is going to be a process that is going to ensue to secure the but I believe that the way with option 2 would be the right way for us to go. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Masango. Any other member? Or we're done on this matter? It looks like there's no.
Chairperson, this is Honorable Breert.
Oh, Honorable Breert, over to you. Over to you.
Thank you, Acting Chair. Maybe just from my side, with regard to the process of the bill, we've just had the Ultra Bill come through our Agriculture Committee, and we initially set out 2 days for public participation. And due to connection failures and this struggle with virtual, we actually had to extend it by another 3 days. So that would maybe be my only input here, is to maybe just revisit and to see maybe to have an extra day or 2 on standby for the public participation, just to make note of all those unforeseeable consequences. And then maybe if I'm allowed to speak to initially the first presentation that SASSA and the department gave us in terms of the social relief of distress grants, and I would like to thank them for the presentation. I think it is a great task that nobody actually envisioned was going to be so great and was going to be have so many intricacies. Chairperson, in terms of the appeals, do they have a deadline for, or by when, that the appeal process would be handled? And will that appeal process be from the initial May month appeals, or have they already worked through that? And then just maybe a last question, Chair, in terms of the post offices, I'm still getting a number of complaints from people. The latest was from Nigel Post Office, where the people are still queuing around the block, and there is people not wearing masks, no social distancing. Our councillor does phone the Metro Police and they come, but as soon as they leave, that is a problem again. Can we address it in some way with the post offices? But Chairperson, that is all from my side. Thank you to all the inputs from the department and the entities.
Chairperson.
Okay, Honorable Aris, what to you?
Yes, thank you very much, Chairperson. My connection was lost. Chairperson, I just want to check with SASSA in terms of, I have read an article recently, and I think the DA has raised this one. That was in terms of that 30,000 unanswered emails and the 40,000 calls per day. And then I have also seen that SASSA will embark to give this going through a tender system or bid to a successful bidder. I just want to find out, why can SASSA not strengthen their own call center by, we have currently, that the employment rate in the country is so high. Why can't we just not employ people on, even if it is the 6 months that they want to give it to the bidder, why can't they employ more people? And then I also would like to find out from SASSA, because in a recent article, there was also applications that was dumped in the streets in KZN. I would like to know what's the progress on that one. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Aris. Is there any other member who wants to make an input before we close on this issue? Okay, it's gone. Acting DG, let's allow you to just to maybe respond on the issues that were raised, and then we wrap up on this issue. Over to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair. I think the majority of the questions were for SASSA, and I will ask perhaps Ndate Jauke to lead us together with Diane and Rapathe to respond to some of the questions around SASSA. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair.
Thanks, DG and honourable members. I'll come in and my colleagues can certainly add. Just around the questions on the 350 grant, the issue around the appeals, we continue to receive appeals. In terms of the directions which have been published, we've got 30 days in which to deal with them. We're trying really hard to get through them all, but and all I can assure the members is that as we go through those appeals, the decisions made would be then to award the grant for each month that that applicant would qualify. So if they applied in May and they qualified for all the months, they would in fact still receive the payment for all the months that they qualify for. But we'll do the validations and the picking on a month-by-month basis. So even if there are some delays, they would certainly get what they are entitled to. The issue, the concerns around the post offices, and we're very aware of those. We engage with the post office regularly to see how we can manage and how we can stagger the number of clients that are going to post offices on a daily basis. What we're also doing, and this is why we're so pleased that the contracts with the banks have finally been sorted out, so that we have the money transfer, which is the option to send the money directly to the approved applicant's cell phones, which they then go and cash out at an ATM and can use the money as they need to. And we're really trying to use that channel a lot more and take some of the numbers away from the post office, just to relieve the pressure on the post office infrastructure. They really are not coping with the numbers that have been sent to them. And then also just to alert honourable members that we've reopened the window period for people to update their method of payment, so they can go into the SASSA website and change the method of payment. So if they've been getting the grant through the post office, they can go now and provide us their cell phone number. We will do the checks and balances to make sure that that cell phone does belong to them. And if so, then the money can be sent through their cell phone, which will take pressure off the other channels. Or if they have a banking account, please to give us their banking account, and then the money would go a lot quicker. The window period for them to update their payment details is open from the 31st, which was Monday, right through to Sunday, the 6th of September. So if honourable members could assist us in encouraging people to go and make that change, it would really help in trying to get the payments out to them as quickly as possible. Around the challenges in the call centre, I think CEO or acting DG, as he mentioned, really indicated that there are some serious cuts to budgets, and compensation of employees is one of the cuts where we've had to make to reprioritise money. So it may seem like an easy answer to just employ more staff to put in the call centre, but it is a case of budget, and as well as making sure that they have the necessary equipment, which then would still have to be procured. And that was why we, after a lot of discussion, felt that going on a tender for a service would be the quickest way to get the support that we need in the call centre. It would also help us learn from specialist call centre service providers to see how we're able to strengthen our call centre and make it better for the future, not just for the short term. So it is a combined approach that we're looking at there. Just then on the question around the applications which were found dumped in KZN, I want to stress to the honourable members that those were not social grant applications. They were documents from the post office for people who had gone to go and collect the 350 grant there. Now, it doesn't make it any less serious, but I do want to just say that they were not social grant applications. We have been working with the post office to find out how they're going to deal with this and what kind of measures they put in to make sure that any documents in their environment which relate to social grants are adequately secured and protected. Thank you so much, DG.
Thank you, CEO. Maybe just to add, thank you, Diane. Maybe just to add two things. One is, I think you may have spoken to Diane, is really the need to try and improve our communication mechanism in terms of, and we have, to be honest, we've done so. And it's really more about trying to encourage people not necessarily to collect the money immediately when it's made available on their whether they get an SMS, but to allow some time where possible to get their money. And there are a variety of options through which recipients can collect their money. And I think we've tried by all means to try and encourage them and say to them, if they wish, they can go to ATMs, as you were saying, and the post office as well, and so on. So it's about really encouraging clients in that regard. But maybe let me also just highlight in terms of some of the challenges that members have raised insofar as the post office is concerned. I think there is a task team and the joint exco, which was created by the ministers to try and address some of the challenges that are currently underway, as well as to deal with implementation of the MSA and the SLA. And I think we had a meeting, in fact, a few days ago with the joint exco, and we're making some progress in that regard, insofar as trying to address some of the challenges that ensue with regards to the current arrangement that we have. So thank you, Chair. I think I'll leave it at that for now. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Acting DG. Honorable members, can we get a mover and seconder for the adoption of the program that was presented by the committee secretary, and then also to agree on option 2, which we need to take moving forward regarding the bill. Thank you.
Honorable Mvana.
Oh, Honorable Mvana moved.
Yes,
Can we
Chair.
get the second?
Honorable Manganyi.
Or Honorable Manganyi seconds.
Yes.
We're done with this issue now, honorable members. We move towards closing the meeting. But before we do that, can we allow the Honorable Minister, Honorable Mageba, to do some closing remarks, and then we close the meeting. Over to you, Honorable Minister. Ngena Mageba. Mageba. It looks like the ministers with some.
I'm sorry, I'm here, Chairperson. I'm here.
Oh,
It's
okay.
connection. My iPad battery is running low. But let me just firstly thank you all members of the portfolio committee, and always thank you for your constructive engagement with ourselves as a portfolio, number one, but also to continue, as I always say, this is a platform that is a platform that's supposed to help us. This is a platform that's supposed to help us take the issues of social development to the next level. And I think the presentations that have been made here by the department, obviously, I don't want to be rehashing and repeating, because it's things that we talk about, myself as well as the portfolio approach. One of the things that I think we will have to look back into is what the Deputy Minister raised with regard to the issue of people with disability. It's something that I've raised already with the department, as well as the portfolio must also include this, because I still feel that we don't step up enough to take the extra mile of ensuring that they have the necessary access like everybody else. And I think it's something that we will carry on. And then with regard to the BRRR, in the last meeting that I had with the department, I also indicated that it's important for us not to wake up to issues of BRRR only because we are going to be making presentations. It's something that we need to continuously make sure that whatever issues there are being raised are being properly implemented. And with regard to the Auditor General and the findings and all that, I want to say that I will continue to push for a focus on the findings and the responses thereof by the portfolio in as far as that is concerned. And then the Children's Amendment Bill, I think I accept all the issues that were raised, and I thank the correct
discussion about the year is going to be completed, which is next year. The last issue that I need to speak to, which is of major importance to us, is the whole issue of the ECDs, and the presentation has been done. But what I think is an opportune moment for us as a department and NDA in particular with regard to the ECDs, those ECDs that are not registered, this is the opportune time for us to make sure that they are registered. But I am also of the view that the whole issue of the ECDs must be lifted by the country in general, which means that government, from a point of view of the Department of Basic Education, ourselves, and health, and be able to talk about the things that we think, where we think there's been weaknesses in the system, because you can see what's happening here. With the ECDs that are privately owned, for instance, you can see how fast they were in terms of reopening. You can see how quick they were, even in terms of the infrastructure and everything. I wish for a time when generally ECDs in South Africa will be, when you get to any ECD, irrespective of whether it's in a rural area or whether it's in a township or wherever, we must see the difference in improving early childhood development, because without that early childhood development and putting emphasis on what needs to be done, part of what I think we must deal with as a department also is the nutrition and food and everything that needs to happen at that level. This COVID-19 shook us to the core in order for us to wake up to the reality, because while we were aware of the challenges that are seen by, are experienced by ECD, this COVID-19 opened up in a different way, and therefore the provinces and ourselves really need to work very hard in ensuring that in another 5 years, in another 10 years, we will not be in the same conversation we are having right now in terms of ECDs and what should be happening in the ECDs. But of course, you are all aware of the fact that the ECDs, parts of some, a big part of it has to go to the Department of Basic Education, and there's still some discussions around that issue. Lastly, for me, with regard to the COVID-19 report that is being given, I think I've said to the department, we need to focus on what happens after October with regard to the 350. What lessons have we learned in as far as food security and the distribution of food and all that? I remember that when there was so much food that was all over the show, I kept asking the question from the private sector and ourselves, will this food still be there by December 2020? Will the same food be there by December 2021? Which therefore means the discussions that we need to have both with the private sector and the NPOs and NGOs, we need to rethink about what we need to do in terms of empowering our own people to make decisions about the kind of food that they have, the kind of food that we give them, the kind of food parcels that we distribute. This is just the time, I personally believe, is for us to look seriously into those issues. And because COVID-19 has exposed us to be able to look for new ways and new solutions to today's problem and to tomorrow's problem. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Let me take this opportunity, honorable members, to thank the Minister, the Deputy Minister, senior officials of the department and its entities, also honorable members in the Portfolio Committee, and then also the legal team also for putting their heads together on the Children's Amendment Bill, for coming through to the meeting today, for making some time to participate in today's proceedings. It is really appreciated, and we would like to thank all of you for your participation in today's meeting. I think there's one issue also from my side that I need to emphasize. The program that we have adopted today is going to kickstart now on the 15th of September, if I'm not mistaken, where the department will have to come and brief the Portfolio Committee, and then we start with the process on the Children Amendment Bill. Now, at that time, Parliament will be on recess, or it will be during constituency period. We would like to appeal to all honorable members with the same vigor, with the same energy that honorable members are participating, at least for our own future. So we would like to appeal to honorable members to avail themselves also to participate. We know that honorable members might be having commitments and responsibilities in their constituencies. But we would like to make a humble plea to all honorable members to make themselves available so that the program, as we have adopted it today, it will flow and then it will not be affected, or there might not be challenges that are experienced to implement that particular program. Honorable members, with the powers vested in me, I would also like to send our apologies to those honorable members who have been kicked out from time to time by the system. Today, the weather is not good. We're in different areas, and then there's strong winds, and then in other areas, there's rain. So I've seen and I've noted all the comments honorable members have been putting in the chat, and then also on our WhatsApp group as honorable members. Members have been really very frustrated, but at least at the end, we managed to put through. So to those who have been affected by the system, we sincerely and profusely apologize for having experienced such challenges. But it's some of the challenges that we're a new normal. We must just be patient, and then we must continue to do the work irrespective of the challenges that we're facing. For the powers vested in me, honorable members, let me take this opportunity to officially declare this meeting adjourned. And thank you very much for participating. Thank you very much, honorable members.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thanks.
Chair. Vanna.
Thank you, members. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, Honorable members.
Thank you, Lindy.
Oh, Nechipale.
No.
God. You see, you guys are better. I mean, I've had to get into a flight this morning, and no social distancing and all that.
No social distancing in the aeroplane.
No, there's no social distancing in the plane. There's social distancing when you enter there, but inside there, sitting there, there's no social distancing. These guys are.
No, they are dangerous.
I think, Minister, you must just wear your moon suit as you travel, and you take off when you get where you are.
No, absolutely.
I think so.
No, maybe somebody must make the moon suit.
I am telling you, you have to.
Yeah. Okay, guys, talk later. Thanks.
Bye, Minister. Good luck.
Bye. Bye.
Good luck.